My mother-in-law pretty much decided right there on the spot that me being lactose intolerant was not real and that I made it up just to avoid her cooking. And now she is making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. And right now I'm honestly kind of frustrated and I don't know how to fix this. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out that yes, your food allergies are a lie and your in-laws are going to let you know about it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss a video. Let's get started. Okay, so I've been lactose intolerant my entire adult life. This is not like severe, like I'm not gonna die or anything like that, but I will spend the next 6 hours feeling absolutely miserable and I genuinely cannot function. I've managed it fine for years. I just read labels, I ask at restaurants, I keep my own stuff at home. It's not dramatic, it's just a thing that I deal with. Well, my husband's mom has known this ever since we started dating like 4 years ago. She's never once commented on it, and honestly, I thought we were fine. Well, last month we went over for Sunday dinner and she made this big creamy pasta thing. I asked quietly, just between us, if there was any way she had a portion without the sauce in it, or if there was something else I could eat in general. I said this very calm and very polite. She then looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, I think you can handle a little cheese. You always make such a big deal out of nothing." When she said this, I was so caught off guard, I just kind of stared at her. My husband stepped in and said that he'd grab something on the way home for me, and honestly, I was fine with that. I wasn't trying to start anything, but then she announced to the whole table that I was refusing her food and asked everyone if they thought that was rude. Meanwhile, his aunt, his cousin, and his dad are all just sitting there watching. I then said very quietly that I wasn't refusing anything. I just can't eat dairy. And she said to me, "Well, my son eats everything I make just fine." Which is like, okay, he's not the one who gets sick from it. We then left early and she actually ended up texting my husband later on, saying that I had embarrassed her in her own home. He was supportive, but I could tell that he didn't fully know how to handle it. And that part honestly stung more than what she did. The thing that gets me is that she's never been outright mean before. This came out of nowhere, and now I'm wondering what else she's been thinking the whole time and just not saying. What should I do? Okay, raise your hand if dairy gives you a tummy ache, because my hand is literally up even though you can't see it. Bro, I'm not kidding when I say this. Anyone who's like, lactose intolerant people are faking it. You can handle a little cheese, right? It's like, yeah, oh, I'll handle it all right, but you won't see me for a few hours because I'll either be throwing up or it'll be coming out the other end. And yeah, that's a very real reality. Like seriously, unless I take certain medication, like if I have milk, it is like a 20-minute timer before I disappear. I'm like a ghost. I'm gone, I'm on the toilet, and it is miserable. So for the mother-in-law in this story to be like, wow, okay, you're like really being difficult right now. You're refusing my food? Guys, everybody look over here. This jerk is refusing my food. My son eats my food all the time, but you won't do it. And it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna eat it, bro. He doesn't get held hostage by dairy depending on what he's eating. And bro, I am not kidding. I literally have to look at packaging all the time. I gotta make sure and be like, okay, is this gonna make me go to the bathroom for the next 30 minutes or am I good to eat it? Oh wait, there's dairy in it. No, not today, Satan. No thank you. Like, do you know how many times this is hit in public and it's like, oh my gosh, where's a bathroom? Suddenly I turn into John Wick being like, I need to find the bathroom right now. Where is it? Just trampling over people to get to the toilet and be like, oh, please let there be a toilet open. So yeah, being lactose intolerant is real and it's such a pain. It's hard. My life is so hard. So for the mother-in-law to be like, wow, this is like basically a phase. That is obnoxious. And it's like, wow, you are really making a big deal out of this. Because the original poster was like, please, let's just keep this private. But instead, the mother-in-law was like determined to misunderstand you. And honestly, in that situation, there's not much you can really do about it. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My coworker's entitled mom quite literally walks out of my home studio without paying for my services, putting me in one of the worst situations I've been in a long time because right now I just don't know how to handle this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I do nails as a side hustle at my apartment to save up for a new car. And let me just say this first and foremost, this is not a charity. My coworker, let's call her Sarah for the sake of the story, asked if I could fit her mom in for a full set of acrylics and some custom art. Now, I usually don't take strangers, but Sarah is okay, so I said sure, why not? Well, the mom shows up 20 minutes late with two of Sarah's nephews in tow, and that's just the first of many red flags. Let me tell you something, these kids were a nightmare. They kept touching my professional lamps and trying to open the glitter jars while I was working. The mom just sat there scrolling Facebook, barely glancing at them, while they almost knocked over my acetone. I spent nearly 3 hours on her nails because she wanted this intricate floral design on every single finger, and you know what? I did a really good job as well. When I finished up and I told her that the total was was $85. She looked at me like I had two heads on my body. She literally laughed and said, "Oh, honey, Sarah told me that you do this for fun in your spare time." But I told her, no, this is a business and I have overhead costs for the materials alone. She then hit me with the ultimate entitled line. She opened her purse, showed me a wad of cash, and said, "Look, the kids start school in 2 weeks. I have to buy uniforms and stationery. You're young. You don't have any real responsibilities yet. You should be happy to help a struggling family." Now, before I could even process the audacity, she literally just stood up, grabbed the kids, and walked out the door. I was so stunned. I just stood there holding my brush. I then messaged Sarah immediately, and she actually had the nerve to tell me to just let it go, saying that her mom is really stressed about money. But you know what? I'm absolutely fuming. I have her address from the booking form, and at this point, I'm seriously considering sending her a formal invoice via certified mail just so I can be petty and let her know that I absolutely need to be paid. Okay, I want to say this as seriously as possible. Do it. You should do that today. Do it every week until she pays you. That is absolutely what I would do. Holy crap, she walked out and didn't pay for that. And Sarah's really trying to sit there and be like, "Oh, just let it go. Come on. She's struggling with money." But it's like, oh, she's struggling and stressed out? Well, then congratulations. Don't schedule a nail appointment, bro. What are we doing? Like, dude, you literally are running a business and this lady's trying to be like, "Oh, honey, you don't have any responsibilities yet." But it's like, yeah, I was responsible for every flower on your fingernails, lady. Like, what are you talking about? So dude, first off, I would absolutely cut Sarah completely out of my life. I would be like, yeah, I'm never helping you out again. But also, yeah, I absolutely would also be sending invoices. Because bro, she can either pay now or in small claims court, which would absolutely be my next step if she decided not to pay up. Am I overreacting for refusing to give my sister a spare key to my house after she was literally caught red-handed rifling through my stuff on my birthday? Because right now they're trying to make me sound crazy for saying no, and at this point I just don't know what to do with this. Here's basically what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female and I live alone and I'm pretty private about my space. I don't give spare keys out easily, and the only person who had one was my ex, and I got that back when we broke up last year. Now, my sister has been asking for a spare key just in case for months now, and I've always kind of just like brushed it off because she has a history of not really respecting boundaries. Like, she'll just show up unannounced or go through my fridge and make comments about what I'm eating. Small stuff, but it honestly really adds up. Anyways, last weekend I had a small birthday thing at my place. It was nothing crazy, just like a few friends, some drinks, some takeout, etc. And amongst the people, my sister was invited. Now, at some point in the night, I noticed she was in my bedroom, which really annoyed me because I keep that door closed when I have people over. I went in and guess what? She was literally going through a drawer in my nightstand. I then asked her what she was doing, and she just laughed and said, "Oh, I was just looking around." Then she made a joke about me definitely hiding something. I then told her to get out, and she acted like I was overreacting and said, "We are sisters. It's not that serious." Well, I let it go at the time because I didn't want to make a scene, but I was honestly really uncomfortable. Fast forward to yesterday, and she texts me again asking for a spare key because she says, "Well, what if something happens and I need to get in to help you?" But I straight up told her no, and I brought up what happened at my birthday. Well, she got defensive immediately and said that I was being dramatic and holding a harmless joke over her head, whatever that means. Then she said it's weird that I'm so protective over my space and that I'm acting like a stranger instead of family. But now my mom is involved, and she's saying that I should just give her a key for emergencies and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable here, like seriously. But now I'm second guessing because they're both acting like I'm the problem. What should I do? Bro, do not give those people a key to your house. Are you serious? This is some weird behavior. Like, why is everybody so obsessed about looking through your stuff? First off, your sister had no business going through your room like that and being like, "Oh, what are you hiding? What's in here?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe I closed it because I didn't want this to happen." Like, why is Dora the Explorer rifling through my stuff looking at, like, I don't know, my medicine or like the flashlight that's in that drawer? Like, there's not a box of gold in there, lady. Get out of my room. What are you doing? This is the equivalent of going through someone's medicine cabinet and being like, "Oh, wow, you have cream for hemorrhoids. I can't believe that." And it's like, dude, get out of here. What are you doing? It's also really annoying that she's trying to be like, "But what if there's an emergency?" Like, yeah, what if there's an emergency? Guess what? I'm not going to call you for that. And plus, if there is an emergency and I'm in trouble, you having a key is not going to make a difference. Because guess what? If I'm having an actual emergency, I'm calling like medical services or like the police or something like that. I'm going to dial 911 and figure it out from there if there's actually an emergency. I'm not going to call my sister up and be like, "Oh, thank God you have that key. Now you can save me." Like, no, dude, I'm going to call the people who can save me, not the lady who's rifling through my stuff like she's Gollum from Lord of the Rings looking for the one true ring. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, no one in this entire family would get a key to my house because they're all acting weird and they're trying to justify this, which is just really weird in my opinion. My entitled aunt quite literally won't stop trying to fix a career that she just doesn't understand, as she is so determined to make me switch jobs, despite the fact that I'm secure and I have a very promising future. And now, after correcting her and telling her to essentially buzz off, she's saying that I'm ungrateful and that, oh yeah, he attacked me, which really doesn't make any sense because honestly, that's not what happened. Here's pretty much what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old male and I work a pretty standard 9-to-5 job as a junior data analyst for a logistics company. It's an average office job. I handle spreadsheets, I track metrics, and I've actually been teaching myself PHP on the side to build an internal portal that automates our onboarding and offboarding. It's a solid path, and I'm proud of the work that I'm doing. The only problem is my aunt, because to her, if you aren't a manager or a director with a company car, you're basically just a temp worker. She has this exhausting habit of intervening in my life based on absolutely zero information. This happens every single day. She will text me links to entry-level sales roles or call me to say that her neighbor's son is a brand ambassador and could get me a job that is actually talking to people. She doesn't ask how my projects are going. She just assumes I'm stuck because she doesn't understand what data analysis is. Well, yesterday afternoon, it finally boiled over. I was just hanging out in the living room trying to get some work done on my laptop while my sister sat nearby scrolling through her phone. She literally walked in, saw my screen, and let out a sigh. She said that she was just talking to a recruiter at my gym earlier and that logistics is a dead sector for staff. So she took the liberty of sending her my LinkedIn. I tried to be nice, but I said to her, Aunt Sarah, I'm building an automation system for a multi-million-dollar firm. I'm not looking to be an assistant. I'm on a development track. Well, she didn't even blink. She actually walked over and stood between me and the television. She said to me, you shouldn't be so defensive. You're just a kid, so you don't see the big picture. She also said that I'm just wasting my 20s in a back room. She kept going on for like 10 minutes, lecturing me about potential while my sister just watched the drama unfold. Now, I had had enough, so I closed my laptop, I stood right in front of her, and I said, if my job is so simple that I should quit it to go show houses for a realtor, then you should be the one who's doing it. Well, the room went dead silent, and she ended up storming out, claiming that I had attacked her for just being a caring aunt. But was she really just being a caring aunt, or am I actually the jerk for snapping at her? Because right now, I honestly don't really know the difference of what's going on here, and I'm seriously just super frustrated. No, your aunt's being super obnoxious. This sucks. Seriously, the fact that she's trying to be like, wow, this is a dead-end job. Here, let's show houses instead for a realtor. That should go well. Like, bro, what are we talking about? That's like honestly super annoying, and I would be very pissed off at that. So no, you're not the jerk. Your aunt sounds obnoxious, and she needs to mind her own business. Because she clearly just doesn't understand that you're working a high-profile job that you're probably going to make a lot of money at. And from the sounds of it, it seems like the last thing you need to do is switch careers. My in-laws flew out to see me and my husband after I literally just gave birth, even though I told them to not come over because I'm kind of a mess right now. But after we turned them away and told them to go back to their hotel, they're now upset with us, and honestly, it's really pissing me off because I am not in a good place to like host anybody because I literally had a baby. And at this point, I don't know what else to do. Let's get started. Okay, for starters, I just had my baby on Tuesday. Also, my husband and I made it super clear that we wanted no visitors for a week after my son was born. We also live across the country. And trust me, all of this is going to be important in a second. My mother-in-law then said to my husband that apparently this was honestly mean to do to people, but we were under the impression that they understood. But holy crap, we were wrong. We both want time alone to bond with the baby. Plus, I had a C-section and I needed time to recover. Well, guess what? They booked a flight for this weekend and arrived today, all without telling anybody until the flight was already booked. My husband spoke to my father-in-law and told him how upset he is that nobody listens to him, but his dad kept talking about how it was the only time they could vacation for work. The flights were cheap for these days. I mean, we really need to get back for Easter as well. But seriously, we just got back from the hospital Thursday, and it's been really rough for me. My shirts are all drenched in milk, I'm sore, and I'm not in any place to have company right now. They arrived this morning, and my husband told them that they can't stop by today. And when my husband said that, they seemed upset, but they went back to their hotel, and that's the last I heard. When my husband asked why nobody listened to us, their only response was to say, "You have no idea how hard it is in the beginning, and we just wanted to help you out." And I just want to say, I know it comes from a place of love. We know they're excited for their first grandchild, but I feel completely overwhelmed and disrespected, and I just don't know what to do about this situation. My baby is feeding and gets hungry every 30 minutes sometimes, so it's just going to be really awkward to keep running back into my bedroom just to nurse. So honestly, what should we do here? Because we don't really know, and we're honestly kind of pissed off. Oh my gosh, talk about main character syndrome, dude. Like, what are we doing? You literally showed up and said, sorry, this is the only time that could work for me. No, we're not gonna wait till after Easter. That would be way too reasonable. We're gonna show up right now, even though you said not to. Oh, you had a C-section? We don't care. We wanna see the baby. Like, dude, get out of my house. Do not show up. Also, as a fun fact, I've never had kids, can't physically have kids. I just can't. It's just not possible for me. But from what I've heard, like through the grapevine, hey, guess what? Having a kid is really stressful on your body. So for people to be over and be like, let's look at the baby, after you've literally been cut open with like, having a C-section, that is insanely rude. Like, bro, I don't want to be around anybody, even with like a minor procedure done. I want to sit in my bed and rot, but here you have to like take care of a tiny human that came out of you. So in my opinion, I don't think you're overreacting. I think your in-laws are idiots for flying out there and not telling you first. And even more to the point, just not even like trying to listen to you. They literally just said, oh, you don't want us showing up? Too bad, here we are. And that is really unacceptable because this sucks and it puts you in such a bad position. Am I the jerk for refusing to lend my car to my brother for his stupid Tinder date after he literally crashed my last one? Because now I really feel like I'm being gaslit by pretty much everybody around me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Let me break this down and explain exactly what's going on. Okay, look, I want to start off by saying that I love my younger brother, but the guy has the worst luck with vehicles. 6 months ago, he borrowed my old Civic to go to a concert, and he ended up rear-ending someone at a stoplight. He paid for the damage, but it took forever and my insurance went up. Fast forward to now, and I just bought a used 2020 Honda that I worked overtime for, and he's now asking to take it out this Friday because he wants to impress some girl he matched with. Well, I straight up told him no, plain and simple. He then got all defensive saying I'm holding a grudge and that accidents happen. But I explained it's not about the grudge. It's about the fact that he's totaled a car before, not mine, his own, and I can't risk my daily driver for a date. He also said I'm being selfish and that he'd be super careful this time, with my mom even saying that I should just do it to help him out. But dude, I feel like I'm being gaslit here. I'm not his personal rental service, and I already gave him a chance that cost me hundreds in a deductible. So why should I risk my new car just so he can look cool for some random girl? He can Uber, he can rent a car, or he can use his own stupid bike. But now the whole family's acting like I'm the jerk for setting a boundary. What should I do here? Okay, dude, if someone crashes my car, that's like an immediate like, no, you're never touching my vehicle again. And your insurance went up? Oh my God, I would never forgive him for that. I would go to every family get together and be like, yeah, remember the car, stupid? Like, no, you're not gonna take my car and impress your stupid Tinder date. Like, I don't think so. Like, the original poster's right. Screw that, dude. Go get a tandem bike and the both of you can ride around. And when she asks you, hey, why don't you have a car? You can explain what you did to get into this situation. So to put it shortly, no, you're not the jerk. Your brother's an idiot and your mom is stupid for trying to be like, oh, just help him out. But last I checked, they probably have cars as well, which means they're trying to push you to the edge of the cliff as the scapegoat here and be like, please let him use your car. We don't want him wrecking ours. And that is not worth the risk, and I don't blame you for saying no. Am I overreacting for locking my own bedroom door? All because my mother-in-law, who's staying with us for a little bit, keeps walking in without knocking first. Because right now, I feel like I'm losing it in my own home, and I seriously just don't know what to do from here. Here's what's going on, and trust me, things get very strange. Okay, to try and like set the scene of what I'm dealing with right now, last night, my mother-in-law casually walked into our bedroom, while my husband and I were lying down in our bed watching a movie, and she did this without knocking and without any kind of warning. She just opened the door and started asking where the extra towels were. And holy crap, I was so startled I actually jumped. Now, the reason I'm even posting this about if I'm overreacting over this situation is because my husband thinks that this is normal and says I'm making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be. For a bit of context, my mother-in-law is staying with us for 2 weeks while some work is being done at her house. She's mostly fine as a guest, but she has this habit of just walking into our bedroom whenever she wants to ask something or even show me something on her phone. It's happened several times already. And at first I tried to ignore it because I didn't want to make things awkward, but it honestly makes me really uncomfortable not knowing when the door might suddenly open. So today I started locking the bedroom door when we're in there. Well, about an hour ago, she tried to open the door again. She then realized it was locked and started knocking loudly. When I opened it, she looked really hurt. She then told me locking the door felt exclusionary and like I was hiding things from her in her own son's house. My husband says, well, that's just how she is. And that that locking the door comes off as aggressive. But at the same time, guess what? It's our bedroom. And I feel like wanting basic privacy isn't that unreasonable. So now I'm really second guessing myself because I just don't know if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do from here. Bro, you're not the jerk. You definitely didn't do anything wrong and you're not overreacting, dude. First off, I want to circle back to something she said. She literally looked at you and said, wow, you're hiding something in my son's house. It's like, lady, dude, I live here. This is my house you're talking about. It's not just him. I'm not his roommate, bro. I'm his wife. What are we talking about? And for her to be like, oh my God, what are you hiding? It's like, I don't know, my naked body as I get dressed. Like, what do you mean? What am I hiding? You can't just kick the door in like the Kool-Aid man and be like, oh yeah, where's the towels? You gotta knock first, or at least be like, hello, is everybody decent in there? Because my God, you were laying in bed. A lot of other things could have been happening, if you know what I mean. And the last thing I would ever want in that situation is my mother-in-law walking in. Like, holy crap. She doesn't need to see the gift of life happening. Like, that's not gonna happen, dude. Like, get out of here, man. In my opinion, this is a very quick way of being like, okay, you're never staying with us again. I don't care if your house burns down. You're not staying for any period of time ever again, period. Because, dude, if I'm staying at someone else's house, I'm gonna be on my best behavior. Meaning I'm gonna knock before I go into someone's bedroom. I'm gonna clean up after myself. I'm gonna be a respectful guest in someone else's home. I'm gonna follow the rules. So no, you're not overreacting. I think locking your bedroom door absolutely needs to happen because your mother-in-law is creepy and she has no business walking in on you like that. My psycho friend demands that I move into her house and help her raise her baby, saying that if I don't do this, then I'm abandoning her and her child. And honestly, this entire situation is insane and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I reconnected with a childhood acquaintance recently when she moved to my city. My dad and her mom used to work together and we weren't close growing up, but when she moved to my city around 5 months pregnant, she reached out. I know how lonely it can be to move somewhere new, so I agreed to hang out and try to help her settle in. When I moved here, I didn't know anyone either, and now I'm the only one that she knows. At first, it was fine. I did little things such as driving her to look for apartments as she didn't have a car. I helped her run errands, and my dad even built her furniture when she got an apartment. My dad came to visit me for the weekend, and we spent it helping her settle in. She has no support system. The baby's dad is out of the picture, and she's unemployed. In fact, I'm not even sure how she's funding everything. I genuinely wanted to be kind and supportive. I even introduced her to some of my friends, and she was so rude to them, and then wouldn't stop talking poorly about them. But then things escalated. She started demanding I go with her everywhere. Doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, even to do nails. She started jokingly calling the baby our baby because I've been around so much. She will say things like, oh, our baby is craving fries from McDonald's, and then beg me to get them for her. She even offers to pay me. She refuses to use meal delivery apps because she doesn't trust that they won't do something to her food. And all of this has been going on for months. Well, fast forward and I'm a bridesmaid at my best friend's wedding, and I'm flying home to Puerto Rico for 4 weeks so that I can help out with a shower, rehearsal, wedding, and even organizing her closet in her husband's apartment while she's on her honeymoon. And for reference, I'm doing this because they don't live together until after the wedding. When my acquaintance came over and saw me packing, she absolutely lost it. She said I never told her about my trip. She said she was counting on me to be there for the birth, which will definitely happen while I'm away. I mean, I leave tomorrow and she's ready to pop any minute, and even expected me to move in with her for the first month after the baby was born just to help out, with her saying this is because I have nanny experience. She also told me that she was planning on me watching the baby on the days I work from home, which was 2 days a week. Well, I told her that I wasn't canceling my flight or shortening my trip, and now she's furious, saying that I'm abandoning her and the baby, that I'm all that they have. She's posting about me on social media saying that I betrayed her. Her mom, who lives in our state about 4.5 hours away, is commenting and even encouraging her. Well, I told my mom about this, and she also said I was a bad friend to leave her and her baby when they needed me the most, that she agrees moving in is a lot, but also apparently I should be there during birth. I should only travel for the wedding, and then I should come back and help out with meals and all this other stuff. She then said to me that she won't be picking me up at the airport tomorrow because she knows I'll do the right thing. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because I seriously just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your friend sounds obnoxious. This is absolutely not your problem. First of all, you are not that baby's like guardian or parent in any way, shape, or form. You're not required to move in and take care of this kid or to help out on days where you're like working from home. That is stupid, that's crazy, and absolutely inappropriate. You're not married to this lady, you're literally just trying to be nice. So the fact that she's trying to be like, you're abandoning my baby, how dare you? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is your baby, it's not mine. I'm just helping you out to be nice, dude. Like, what's going on right now? And you know what? Someone pointed out in the comments section that they can kind of understand understand why the baby daddy's out of the picture, because this lady is crazy. She's using you for your car, for your money, I mean, even your free time. Like, who is she to say that, no, you can't go to Puerto Rico, you need to move in with me and help me raise my baby? It's like, no, I don't have to do anything like that. I'm gonna go to Puerto Rico for 4 weeks and there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, this whole situation is crazy, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, because your friend is absolutely insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I had my heart broken by a group of people that came into my restaurant who literally made fun of me behind my back and then left me $0 as a tip at the end of the night. And now, as a result, I feel like I'm way more guarded than I used to be at my job, and I no longer smile as much as I used to. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was about a month into working as a server when I experienced this, and I sometimes still think about it. So it had just been a super busy night, and I was just recovering from a rush and bussing a whole bunch of tables. I then got told that I had a group of 4 waiting to order. They were young adults, maybe in their late teens, early 20s. They were a diverse group with 2 men and 2 women, and each of them were attractive in their own way. After taking their order, I reiterated it back to them in my usual chirpy way that I was to customers. For reference, back then I was very high energy with all my tables. I loved meeting and talking to new people, and I didn't care that I had braces with rubber bands on and glasses, because I just gave them my biggest smiles. And so they confirmed their orders and I went on my way. I wasn't even that far away when I suddenly heard loud laughter. There were some words I couldn't make out, but I heard a fragment of, "Oh, and look at the hair." And this was said amongst all of their laughter. And it was right then that I had this terrible gut feeling that they were making fun of me, but I just couldn't understand why they would be doing that. So I put in their order and I prepared for their table, all the while just dreading going back to their table. When the kitchen rang for their order, I was so tempted to ask someone else if they could deliver the food to them. But you know what? I just told myself that I had nothing to be afraid of, that God didn't give me a spirit of fear. Now, thankfully, they were cordial when I gave them their food, and the restaurant had cleared out a lot since we were pretty close to closing, and there was only a couple other tables. But even above the music, we could still hear their loud conversations about K-pop, especially one dude's voice. I could hear his opinions from literally across the restaurant. I did still keep an eye on the table while doing side work, ensuring that their water pitcher was filled and just seeing if they needed anything. One of the men kept glancing at me, so I went back to the table and I asked if they needed anything at all. And when I said this, I was met with literal crickets. None of them even responded, and one lady just gave me an awkward smile, so I just left the table. At that point, I was just so done with them. I left them alone until one guy came to ask for the check. I went back to their table to give them the receipt, and it was right when I was bussing tables when I heard laughter and someone saying, "Dang." Well, after a while, they filed out of the restaurant, and just as I suspected, they had not left any tip. They even wrote $0 where the tip was supposed to go. That event haunted me for like the next 48 hours. I couldn't think straight or prepare right for the final exam I had the next day. It just completely baffled me how they made me feel so awful and made it a point that they tipped me nothing. What's messed up was that I kept on wondering if I had done something weird, if I had offended them in some way or something like that. Because seriously, why would they treat me like that otherwise? I know I look like a stereotypical nerd, but like I need braces and my eyes were drying up from contacts, so I resorted back to glasses. Is it that offensive to look the way that I do? I couldn't make sense of their behavior no matter how much I tried. Well, I thought about it and I honestly just drove myself crazy, and I was completely distracted from studying for a final. It's sad to think about, but I've begun to think that some people are just cruel, no matter if they're younger or older, attractive or not. Maybe they wanted to demean somebody, like they felt like they had the power to do that, which honestly makes me sick to think about. So now I'm just so guarded with all of the customers, and I only let it down with regulars just a little bit. Yeah, that's indicative of like a culture of people who literally are just so toxic to one another, because I guarantee you the fact that they're making fun of you is evidence that they're probably making fun of each other in private. Like, these people hate themselves and they hate everybody else around them. Make no mistake about it. Like, seriously, these people are miserable and they're just trying to drag you down to their level. And you just happen to be a person who's like happy to be working and like doing a good job. So please don't let these losers, and yeah, these people are losers, take away from your happiness when it comes to your job. Keep having that high energy and keep greeting people with a smile, and don't be afraid to be yourself. Because seriously, these people suck and they should not inform what you do or don't do with your life. Am I the jerk for walking away from my friend during an argument while we were on vacation after she made yet another crappy remark at my expense? Because right now things are getting really weird in my friend group and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 20-year-old male and I went on a Europe trip with my best friend who's a 22-year-old female. We were meeting up with a mutual friend in Portugal, then going to Spain to see where she lived and then traveling elsewhere. Now, I gotta be completely honest. The trip was rough from the start. On day 1, we fought because I teased her about not wanting to do anything before a noon train. She said I was invalidating her anxiety, and then I just apologized. The next morning, she loudly announced that she didn't care about my apartment search and wanted to change topics, and then brought up the previous fight when I got quiet. Well, once our mutual friend arrived, the fights got more public. At a bar, she accused me of invalidating her again, raising her voice enough that people stared. I felt humiliated. Later, she criticized where I wanted to take a Zoom call, saying that I was prioritizing strangers' comfort over hers. In Spain, she got oddly territorial about our mutual friends. She answered questions for me, underlined every small mistake I made when I got tipsy, and even cut me out of conversations. My grandmother suggested she might be jealous, so I just gave her space. Things got worse when she started criticizing me directly, telling me I was too skinny, saying that I had a bad nose and I had bad skin and teeth. She even said that I might have an eating disorder or an alcohol problem, claiming that I was arrogant ever since I lost weight. Now, I brushed it off, but felt incredibly insulted, especially since she knows my family history with addiction. On our last night, I mentioned maybe pulling an all-nighter before my flight, and this is where she snapped that I didn't understand her chronic headaches, and claimed that she wouldn't be able to sleep anticipating me coming back. And then she loudly exclaimed that she never wanted to travel with me ever again. And when she said this, people started staring. Well, I held my tongue, but later while we were on the subway, I realized I was pressed. And when we got off, I walked ahead of her in silence. She then just apologized for the setting and not the feelings. But you know what? I just ignored her. At the hotel, I went for a walk instead of talking, and the next morning when I wished her a safe flight, she simply didn't respond. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I honestly just don't know what to do anymore. Holy crap, no, you are not the jerk, dude. This lady is out of her mind. In my opinion, you don't really know someone until you travel with them, because if this didn't show her true colors, then I don't know what will. And I really mean it when I say, like, yeah, you don't know someone until they travel, because dude, I've experienced this, and this can be extremely eye-opening if you're not careful. So no, you're not the jerk. It sounds like she was absolutely the problem here, and in my opinion, I also would never want to go on a vacation with her ever again, because she sounds like a basket case that I absolutely would not want to put up with. An entitled jerk at Walmart demands that I give back his spot in line, despite the fact that he literally walked away and unloaded his stuff somewhere else. And I'm honestly just blown away because this is such an entitled thing to ask for. Here's what happened. Okay, so my daughter turns 4 this weekend, and against my better judgment, I decided to brave the general public and go get the non-perishables today so that I could start cooking tomorrow while my kids were at school. There were 3 checkout lanes open, and they were in the process of opening up the self-checkout, so I had no choice but to pretend to be as human as possible. And this is especially true since I didn't have any coffee at this point. I start to walk to the first line where there's a couple putting their items on the conveyor belt, but I guess the guy working the lane must have been going on break or something like that, because he told them that he was actually in the process of closing the lane down. So the couple started putting their things back in their cart, and I went to the next open line. They ended up behind me in line not too long afterwards, and I didn't pay much attention to my surroundings because I was putting my stuff on the conveyor belt. I pivot my body to put the little plastic doohickey that separates your orders on the conveyor belt itself, and the guy speaks up and says, "You know, it wouldn't hurt you to let us go ahead of you in line here because you were behind us in line before. It would be the nice thing to do." When he said this, I was so confused. On what planet does that make sense? So I asked him, "So you want me to take all of my things off the belt back into my cart and go behind you just to be nice because you got in the wrong line earlier?" I'm sorry, that's not happening. And I will say in this entire interaction, his wife at least had the common decency to look embarrassed. She then whispered something to him and he didn't say anything further, allowing me to go about my business again because this was honestly such a weird thing to complain about. Okay, the second you unload your groceries and get out of that line is the second you no longer have any priority over that line. So the fact that this guy thought he could be like, "Okay, let me get back in line. I was ahead of you earlier." It's like, dude, you might have been ahead of me earlier, but guess what? That time's gone. You left the line and you decided to go somewhere else, meaning that you forfeited your spot, and I have no obligation to honor that because seriously, this is such a weird thing to complain about, and that guy was being super entitled. Today, I spilled a glass on a customer's lap, all because some weirdo kept getting in my face about taking his dirty dishes. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was cleaning tables as requested by customers because out of all the tables available, they had to sit by the ones with dirty dishes on them. I had my system of arranging the dishes in the tray to make it more efficient for filling and then cleaning. Now, I say tray because I don't know what the actual word is in English, and it's basically one of those boxes you collect the dishes in. Anyways, I'm holding the tray in one hand and I'm filling it with the other. Well, some idiot then sneaks sneaks up behind me and tries to load a bunch of dishes into this box. Well, when he does this, I explain both physically and verbally that I really will take it for him, I just need a moment so I can get my ducks in a row. But this guy literally just continues to get in my face. I've just picked up a glass and I automatically use that hand to make distance from the guy, and of course, some of the drinks in the glass spills on the lap of the guy whose table I'm clearing. And honestly, I already had a really stressful shift as it is, and this didn't help out one bit. Okay, that is so annoying. I can't stand customers who act like that, because seriously, all they had to do was wait. You literally said to them like, oh, don't worry, I can get that for you. Give me just one quick second. And then here they are being like, take the glasses, take the dishes, do it right now. And the fact that you had to hold up a glass and be like, dude, give me some distance, get out of my face, must have meant that this guy really was like up in your business, straight up right in your face and being like, take the glasses, do it. So yeah, that's super obnoxious and I'm so sorry that happened. My neighbor decided to install a fence without knowing the property line, and despite the fact that I told him I don't want him doing anything with our yards until we know where our properties are, he decided to ignore that and do it anyways, putting me in a situation that I truly didn't want to be in. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my neighbor and I share one long side of our properties. This past Thursday, he hollered over to me as I was walking to my car to go to work, asking if it was okay if he put in an underground fence for his dog along our property border on Saturday. I then said that I wasn't sure where the property line between our yards was, and he replied by saying, well, neither did he. So with that, I said I wasn't comfortable with either of us digging along the property line until we get it surveyed, which I even offered that I would start the process of getting my own lawn surveyed because this is something I've been wanting to get done as it is. He then said he had already scheduled the guy to come and install the fence on Saturday, but I reiterated that I would like if we could wait until we know where the property line is itself. I was already late for work, so the discussion ended, and that's the last I heard until this morning when I heard the machine start up outside and he proceeded to have the fence installed. When the guy got to the part of the yard that shares a boundary with mine, I went out and I asked where my neighbor was, but he literally wouldn't give me a straight answer, and I mentioned that I talked to him on Thursday and that we didn't know where the property line was. The guy then said to me, well, he likely owns at least a few inches off this sidewalk, which I don't know if that's true or not. The deed to my house says that my yard is 50 feet by 160 feet, and it is essentially a perfect rectangle. And in fact, my neighbor has his yard stuff, namely his gardens, his sidewalk, his chairs, and decorations, at an angle that gradually gets closer to my property as you walk south along the property. I honestly just feel so irritated about all of this. He asked me if I was okay with it, and I told him no, and then he was going ahead and doing it anyways, and that just feels incredibly inconsiderate. But he has always kind of annoyed me and felt overly nosy, so I'm really wondering if I may be overreacting about all of this. He also consistently walks across my yard without asking, and he's also set up his party guests on my yard before, again, without even asking me first. And these are both things I would never do to someone else. I feel our generational divide creates a lot of our friction because the way we perceive and understand the world is completely different from one another. What should I do? Oh yeah, this is some serious entitlement here. I can't stand people who act like this because this is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask for permission, but even if you say no, I'm gonna do it anyways. And here's the thing, this guy absolutely knows better, but he's doing it anyways. He's literally encroaching on your property because he's a jerk, and that's all there is to it. Now, if this was me, I would take the petty route and be like, okay, I'm gonna get a surveyor anyways and make him redig all this up and get it off my property. And then I would take the time to be like, okay, and now I'm gonna get a fence because you can't behave yourself, meaning that if it's in my space, you better believe you're gonna have to move it. Because seriously, this guy doesn't respect you at all. You told him no, and even then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it anyways. So no, you're definitely not overreacting. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay rent to my late brother-in-law's parents for a property that I'm not even sure they own? Because right now things are really weird and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm really looking for clarity and some help figuring out what's the right thing to do in this situation. I'm a 37-year-old female and I'm currently living in my late brother-in-law's condo, and we'll call him Jeff for the sake of the story. The condo is jointly owned by Jeff and his parents. Now, at the time of Jeff's passing, he was still legally married to my sister, although they were separated. That being said, they had been discussing reconciliation, and just a week before his death, he was still intimately involved with her. Now, despite this, Jeff's parents have refused to recognize my sister as his spouse. They've also taken possession of the 2 dogs that Jeff and my sister shared. One of the dogs has vet records listing my sister as the sole owner, and the other is listed as co-owned by both Jeff and my sister. It's been 2 months since Jeff passed away, and his parents have completely cut off communication with my sister, quite literally blocking her on all platforms. And at this point, she's now hired a lawyer and is beginning the probate process to claim what is legally hers, including any portion of Jeff's estate that she may be entitled to. Well, as for me, I had been paying monthly rent directly to Jeff through Apple Pay, even though we never signed a formal lease. But after everything everything that's happened, I've decided to stop sending payments to his parents until they agree to speak with my sister and address her rightful claims. And now, in response, they've threatened to involve the authorities. I'm actively looking for a new place to live, and I plan to move out as soon as possible, but in the meantime, I'm honestly left wondering if I'm the jerk for getting involved. Should I have stayed out of this completely, or did I have any kind of justification for kind of like throwing my hat in the ring? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I would not pay them a single cent. You're paying Jeff the money, not the parents. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't even seem like this is their property to begin with. Like, if anything, this is gonna go to your sister and not to the parents. And also, the fact that the parents are being so toxic towards your sister, and they're trying to be like, oh yeah, you're not actually his spouse. Like, that's crazy to me, and that is so dumb. Not to mention them like taking the dogs away from them. Like, dude, I would lose my mind if that happened to me. So no, you're not the jerk for not paying them, because I think if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My entitled mother can't listen to anything without making it all about herself. And after dealing with this for years, I'm honestly at the end of my rope and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to try and paint a picture of what I'm dealing with, if anyone says something positive, my mother says that she did it better. Like, she said her friend bought a nice Louis Vuitton purse and was really happy about it. And when she showed my mother, my mom scoffed and said that she had a Chanel bag that was more expensive. Every time I talk about anything, she always relates it back to a story about herself. Like, even if I said I went to the park, she will talk about how she went to Disney World a few years ago and it was super fun. If I ever complain about anything, she will simply not listen and then say that she has it worse and then just start complaining about things in her life. Like the other day, I said I was annoyed about something my sister said, and she started complaining even louder and saying that she had a fight with her brother and was still angry about it, which wasn't even related. The funniest thing is that she will literally talk at you for hours. Like on family road trips, she talked for a full hour complaining about random crap our dad did, and we just didn't say anything because we couldn't get a word in. And then when my brother said, oh, that's annoying, he said that to me too, and started to talk about something recent that happened, she then just straight up cut him off after 2 sentences and said, let's think about happy things to enjoy the trip. No negative topics, please. Let's stay positive. And this is by far one of the most exhausting things I've ever had to deal with. Okay, dude, I cannot stand this. This is so annoying. And this really would be the thing that would break me and probably make me lose my cool. Like, I love talking with people and talking about what's going on in my life, but the second a dialogue becomes a monologue where they're just trying to one-up everything you say, that's when I tune out and I'm like, okay, I'm never talking to this person about anything ever again, because what your mom is doing is incredibly obnoxious. My entitled aunt humiliates me at a family reunion after I refused to give her money for her birthday. So I teach her a lesson by getting some revenge, where I booked her a flight to go on a vacation that she was never going to be able to go on in the first place, because 2 days before the flight was going to take place, I decided to cancel the ticket that I bought her, causing my aunt to have a meltdown in a way I have never seen in my life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened about 2 weeks ago. My family had a reunion at my aunt's house because it was also her birthday too. We don't all live in the same city, so these reunions are rare. For reference, I'm 28 years old and I work as a head manager at a restaurant. My cousins are also working and had just returned from a business trip. My aunt has no children, so she treats her nieces and nephews like her family kids. During the reunion, my aunt gave a little speech and then asked us to play a game. She said she wanted her nieces to show their love by giving her the best birthday gift. Well, my 2 cousins immediately gave her money and she was thrilled. Then she looked at me expecting me to give something too, but you know what? I didn't participate because I'm strict with my money. It is my hard-earned income and I don't feel responsible for giving her anything, especially since she never helps us financially when we need it. And you know what? That is when she crossed the line. She openly insulted me in front of the family, saying that even though I'm the oldest niece and a manager, I'm somehow the poorest niece that she has. She mocked our family and acted like she had the right to judge how we live. So this is where I decided to get some petty revenge. I decided to book her a vacation flight as a surprise, scheduled for a week after her birthday, and I paid for it immediately. I even emailed her the receipt and the itinerary. And when I did this, she was completely shocked and suddenly her attitude changed. She was happy again and took back all the negative things that she had said. Despite that, I was still angry, and I asked my mom to go home immediately after the reunion. Well, 2 days before her flight, I canceled it. On the day she was supposed to leave, she called me non-stop, but I ignored her and asked my mom not to answer the phone either. But then she showed up at our house loudly knocking and demanding that she talk to me. She then accused me of scamming her and said she was going to report me to the police because I canceled a flight that I booked and paid for. She also demanded that my mom pay for the canceled flight and the accommodations and all the inconvenience that I supposedly caused. But you know what? I planned everything because of how she treated me during the reunion. And honestly, I have no regrets at all. She absolutely deserved it, because entitled people like her deserve to be taught a lesson. Oh man, this is really funny. I love this so much. You not only got back at this lady, but you humiliated her in the process. Because this lady for sure probably told the whole family like, oh my gosh, I got this great vacation. My niece threw me a curveball and gave this to me. I'm so excited. And then on the day of, you're like, actually, no, I'm not gonna let you go on this flight. See ya. And you just snatched it away from her and probably shocked her in the same way that she shocked you at that reunion. And by the way, like seriously, what's going on here? Did she plan for the reunion and her birthday to be on the same day? Because it kind of seems like that's exactly what happened. And if she did do that, it's probably because she wanted money or gifts from people, and if they didn't give her anything, she would call them poor. And that's just so ridiculous, man. So honestly, good for you for putting her in her place and shutting her down, because her attitude was completely uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled cousins demand that I give them free accommodations anytime they visit me in London. But thankfully, I have a fiance who shuts that crap down every single time, especially after the way they took advantage of us the last time they visited. Here's what happened. To start things out, I live in London, and I have family, specifically my cousins, who expect free accommodation to visit. Before my fiance moved in, I would cave and stay at his place for a couple of days and let them have my apartment. We enjoyed being together at his place for the whole weekend, so it didn't really feel like a huge inconvenience. But he told me that I should be firmer with them. Well, the last time it was my cousin and her 15-year-old son. The night they arrived, I paid for takeout to be delivered for dinner. There was no real thank you, and then the next day, half the leftovers had been eaten. I ate the other half, and then I got evil looks from my cousin, who hissed at me and said, well, I was planning to have that for lunch. We then went out for dinner on their last night, and when the bill came, I pushed it towards my cousin, thinking that she might be a good sport and cover it. But no, of course that didn't happen. Instead, the iPhone calculator came out just to add up everything that she and her son had, and that's exactly what she paid for, with me getting the rest, plus the entire service charge. I had also bought some supplies in advance, thinking that I could use whatever's leftovers for the following week. But no, they took them all home with them. Half-eaten bags of chips, bananas that probably bruised in their bags, half a bottle of milk, open packets of cookies, muffins, pastries, and half-empty boxes of breakfast cereal. Well, after my fiance moved in, my cousin messaged us asking to stay again. Now, as it is a one-bedroom apartment, I said that we don't have the space and we don't have my fiance's place to stay at anymore. She then came up with this elaborate plan of sleeping on the sofa and moving all my furniture out of the way to fit an airbed for her son in the living room. But you know what? My fiance replied with a list of nearby hotels. My sister then came to visit earlier this summer, but her Airbnb fell through at the last minute, so I offered her the sofa for the weekend. She was a delight to have around, bought me breakfast, and left some beautiful flowers in a vase and a thank you card when she left. After that happened a few days later, a message landed from my cousin asking if she and her kid could stay, given the fact that I had let my sister stay earlier. Well, once again, my fiance replied with a list of nearby hotels. My cousin then asked if she could stay on the sofa if it's just her and she left her kid at home. And guess what my fiance replied with? That's right, if you guessed the same list of hotels, you would be correct. And honestly, I wish I was as firm as him sometimes, because this lady absolutely needs this. Okay, in my opinion, the second anybody takes advantage of me like that, that's the second they're gonna go on a list of people that I will never trust ever again with anything. They're just gonna take all my food, my money, and they're never gonna be gracious in the same way that I'm giving to them. So yeah, this is wonderful to see, and I'm glad you have a fiance who can back you up in this, because your cousin sounds incredibly entitled. Am I the jerk for bringing my own food to a family get-together, all because I literally can't eat gluten? Because right now, my mother-in-law, I think, is very offended that I'm not eating her food, despite the fact that she knows I'm allergic to gluten, and I now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so 2 years ago, I discovered that gluten was one of my migraine triggers, and so is sugar. The past 2 years has been a struggle to adapt my new eating habits, just so I don't get migraines along with the stress of all of this. Now, for reference, I have a chronic migraine, and it's been a nightmare, and it's been like that for the past 15 years. I've tried so many prescriptions from my doctor. I got scanned in my brain for blood clots, tried everything to ease my pain, from massages to cold baths to anything that you can possibly think of, but literally nothing ever really helped. But then 2 years ago, I went to a retreat weekend. The food they served were gluten and lactose free. And you know what? I felt the very best I've ever been in a long time. So when I got home, I studied recipes for gluten-free food. I went to my doctor and I took a test to see if I was allergic to the gluten, gluten, but it showed negative. And that's when she told me that gluten could be one of my triggers to a migraine. So I searched for food with no gluten, and I began the new lifestyle. I also began to bring my own food to the family gatherings at birthdays and holidays. Well, my mother-in-law got really offended and asked if I didn't like her food. But of course not. I will admit, the first year was a struggle to adapt, and I did give in sometimes when I was offered a delicious cake with gluten and sugar. I mean, what can I say? I'm only human, and I've been used to regular food for like 40 years. My husband and I have many times explained to our families what gluten does to me, but his family doesn't really get it. So I bring my own food, and sometimes it's like 10 times more delicious than whatever they're eating. And I've even had family members try to sneak a taste just to see what I'm cooking. Well, the last time we got to my father-in-law's birthday party, and I saw that they had warmed up some gluten-free buns, and I got so happy. But my mother-in-law was quick to say that they were not for me. She said it was for our niece, and that she had found out that she was allergic to gluten. She then said, oh, if she eats gluten, it can get so bad that she just can't even have children. Well, luckily I had my own gluten-free bread with me, so I said to her, okay, I'll just eat some of my own bread then. Well, when I said this, my mother-in-law said that she'll warm some buns up for me, and she said this with an irritated gesture. Well, my husband heard all of it and he defended me. I mean, he was so mad, and I was sad that they didn't take me very seriously for my health. So seriously, am I the jerk for bringing my own food to family gatherings? Don't get me wrong, I do love my in-laws, and they love me as well, but sometimes they can really blindside me. What should I do? Okay, your mother-in-law is an idiot because seriously, if a piece of cake is the one thing that can knock you out and make you have a migraine for like a year at a time, then yeah, you should absolutely bring your own food and like eat what you have. And it's so stupid that she's trying to be like, oh, this isn't for you. This is for the child that can't eat gluten, not the adult. And it leads me to believe that she probably thinks you're faking it, that you just don't want to eat her food or some crap like that. And that, in my opinion, is way worse and so much more annoying. Like, how entitled can you possibly be? Like, get a grip, lady. It's not all about you. So no, you're not the jerk for bringing your own food, because that is literally the most like logical thing in this situation. And the fact that the mother-in-law is choosing to get offended over this, in my opinion, is just so weird. Am I the jerk for wanting an explanation for my sister's engagement after she literally had a blowout over the emotional mistreatment and manipulation that she was experiencing? Because right now I feel very confused and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I have a 33-year-old sister who I'm very close with. We hang out often and talk about everything and have been like that for at least 15 years. And anyone with siblings knows that you don't always get along when you're younger. Anyways, my sister has been in emotionally and physically unhealthy relationships in the past, and my husband and I have done all that we can at any point to be there and help with the kids or any part of life needing assistance. She is my rock, and so we've always tried to be hers in return. Recently, she has been dating this man and wanted to get married and have kids immediately, and we've talked about this and how it may be toxic trying to push a man into something he's not ready for when he's literally showing signs that he's not ready for that. Well, long story short, after a year of her pushing, he hasn't proposed and has slowly started to show signs of emotional mistreatment and manipulation. And this is her words, not mine. Like, I simply don't know him well outside of family events. She came to stay with us for a week because she didn't feel comfortable in her own house due to his yelling and arguing. At the end of the week of crying, drinking, and long talks, she decided to kick him out and finally end things. My husband and I told her how proud of her we were for putting her and her kids first, and that we would be there for her however she needed it. Well, cut to 4 days later, and my sister sends a video message to the family group chat announcing that they're engaged and getting married in a month and a half. My family replies positively, although I know everyone is wary of this. I then text her separately saying that I'm disappointed in this choice. Well, cue her sending an invite to the small elopement with a letter detailing how I have to respect her husband and her choices to be in her life still. I then texted her saying, hey, I was hoping we could talk about what's going on. Whether it's just you and me or all of us at Dad's place sometime, it's up to you. We move this week, but next week should be easier if that works for you. To which she replied by saying, if you're referring to my engagement, I'm not interested in discussing or defending my choices. You're welcome to join us at the family dinner if you'd like to celebrate with me. So seriously, am I the jerk for feeling like I do somewhat deserve a conversation about how this happened? I'm seriously concerned that he's emotionally manipulating her and used an engagement to pull her back in when she cut the cord. I know everyone says you're never entitled to information into others' private lives, so I feel I might be a jerk here, but at the same time, the amount of times we've supported her through major fights and the big blowout a few days before the proposal makes me feel like it's fair for me to ask about how she's sure about this and how she can be so sure that this isn't further manipulation. What should I do? Okay, I've got to be completely honest with you, and this probably is not what you want to hear, but if I was in your shoes, I would 100% stay out of it. You cannot control your sister, and honestly, it sounds like your sister's making a dumb choice. And yeah, it really sucks because clearly you care about your sister. You've been there for her, you refer to her as your rock, and you've done everything you can to try and help her out as best as you can. But if she's too stupid to see that this guy is nothing but trouble, then that's on her and nobody else. She's made up her mind and that's that. But I will say, in the future, when this finally blows up on her, she had better not come to you asking for any kind of advice, because if she does, you just hand her that letter back and be like, I'm sorry, but I was just respecting your decisions. Because seriously, if this all falls apart, it's on her and nobody else. My partner's mother is constantly trying to ruin the activities that we plan, as she always tries to become the center of attention by always being such a problem regarding anything that we've planned. And now, after she ruined our kayaking trip, I'm honestly at the end of my patience, swearing to my husband and my brother-in-law that she simply is not going to be invited to anything else we do in the future. Here's what happened. Okay, so my partner's brother's wife, so I guess my sister-in-law, had a birthday this last week. So we had a full day of kayaking, lunch, window shopping, and dessert planned. Her husband and I worked an obnoxious amount of hours at different jobs, so coordinating for both of us to get the second half of the day off to make this happen was a feat in and of itself. I rushed home after work, I got the kayaks loaded up and all the extra gear loaded into the truck, and I asked my partner if we were heading straight there now to meet them. And it's here that he said his mother was coming here to carpool with us. Now, it's really important to note that almost every single outing with her, some kind of issue always comes up. So I was already voicing my annoyance that we were carpooling and she couldn't just drive herself. Well, she shows up while I'm in the kitchen, and when I come to the living room, she's not even remotely dressed for any outdoor activity, let alone kayaking. I then asked if she needed to get changed for the trip, and she said she did not think that she was going to go kayaking. And all I could think to myself was like, wait, what? What's going on right now? Now, I didn't press the issue at all. I mean, this is not my fight, and while I didn't organize the trip, I'll just let my brother-in-law sort it out. We drive 45 minutes to get to the park and launch area, and we see my brother-in-law already has the 2 kayaks for them out, and my mother-in-law's inflated one ready to go. I asked if he already paid for the day pass, and he said he didn't see the envelope, so I walked to the nearby booth to grab them and came back to the truck to find a pen to fill them out. As soon as I opened the door, my partner is leaning in the passenger side shaking his head. I asked what was wrong, and he said the kayaking part of the trip is off. His mom told my brother-in-law that she did not want to kayak and that she would just watch instead. And this is literally a river excursion. We're not just doing laps in a lake. Well, this was the first time I'd ever seen my brother-in-law visibly angry in 11 years when he asked her why she even bothered to come along or agreed to come when she had the chance to back out at my house before we left to go here. But she just said that she would sit on the sidelines and just watch. Well, we deflated her kayak, threw the 2 in the back of his truck, and said, okay, let's just go get lunch. Well, the entire way there, she was completely silent. Didn't say a word when we got seated at the restaurant until the waiter asked for drinks. When it came time to order food, she said to start at the other side of the table, and when they got back to her, she was not hungry and then just sulked on her phone on Facebook the entire hour that we were there. When we finished, she beelined out of the restaurant and sat on the flower bed stoop at the corner waiting for us. We didn't want to ruin the entire birthday outing, so when we got to where she was, we said we're gonna go into a few shops and try to get some ice cream from a place that's just a few doors down. She then said, well, that's fine, but I'm just gonna stay here until you're done. And it's like, what is going on right now? I then asked her if she wanted my keys to go sit in the truck, but she said to me, no, it's such a nice day out. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? Well, we were gone for another 45 or so minutes and came back to her still sulking on the stoop. Now, at this point, I offered my brother-in-law $100 if he would simply just drive her home because I didn't want to be in that awkward position for another hour, but unfortunately, he declined. And trust me, this is like the 3rd event in a row, with the prior 2 just being audience-type shows that she has spoken poorly about during and after the fact. We've all vowed that this will never happen again, but I'm honestly suspicious if this actually will follow through, because this is the 3rd time this has happened, and I can absolutely see this happening again. Okay, imagine going on a river outing and knowing that everybody's gonna go kayaking just to show up and be like, oh, I'm just gonna watch, it's not a big deal. And then in the same day be like, oh, I don't wanna go inside, it's such a nice day outside. I'm gonna sit on this stoop by these flowers, have a good time getting ice cream. Like, I don't know about you, but I would go nuts if someone did that to me. Seriously, that's so obnoxious it's not even funny. So yes, I hope for the sake of you and the rest of your family's sanity, this lady is not involved in any other future trips. Because look at the way she acted. She literally ruined the plans for no good reason. Like, you can't tell me she didn't know you guys were going kayaking, or at least doing something that was like more outdoors in some way. Like, why else would they have an inflatable kayak for her specifically, if not for her to go on the river with everybody else? Meanwhile, the original poster describes them as looking like Stevie Nicks with a shawl and everything on. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You're intentionally derailing this entire trip for some stupid reason that honestly just doesn't make any sense. Like, if I drove an hour out to a river and then I said, okay, let's go kayaking, and then someone in the trip was like, no, I don't want to do that, I'm just gonna watch, I would be so upset it would not even be funny. So yeah, this really does suck, and hopefully she never comes back for any trips in the future. My entitled friend literally ruined my night out at a ballpark, as he was so obnoxiously loud about how much he was disliking this experience. And now I'm incredibly upset with him, but I'm not sure if I'm overreacting here, because this situation is incredibly frustrating. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I went out with my 20-year-old male best friend last night. Now, I'm a huge baseball fan, and I love going to games, so I decided to bring him along with me. I paid for everything, including two $40 tickets and the $40 parking pass, because this night out was my idea. All week leading up to last night, he kept telling me how excited he was and how he had not been to a game in years, and we were laughing and chatting the entire 30-minute ride to the ballpark. Well, once we were there, he started acting up. He took one look at the crowd and told me how this was his personal nightmare, which I can understand because baseball on Saturdays can be really packed. He started attempting to joke with people around us, calling them lame for coming there, and asking if anyone had real lives outside of sports fans, which really pissed a lot of them off. While walking to our seat in the back, he kept complaining about how much he hated it and how he doesn't even know baseball that well. And when we sat down, he immediately started telling me to never bring him there again and how he was in his own personal nightmare. The entire game, he was a total jerk. He made fun of all the player names as loud as he could, including our home team. He sang obnoxiously because he was bored, and he was manspreading along our bench seats, knowing that I was squished, along with a family next to us who weren't happy to be squished either. Even when people, including myself, jumped for joy at home runs, he sat down and tapped his foot like he couldn't wait to leave. Once it hit the top of the ninth, I wanted to see the final strikeout and our win, but he pushed me out of the park. We then got in the car and he told me, I can't lie, I had absolutely no fun whatsoever. I would have rather been anywhere else but here. I then gave him the silent treatment on the drive back, to which he explained he was overwhelmed and overstimulated from work and all this other things, and the ballpark just wasn't the right place for him. So I really need to know, am I overreacting about being upset about this? I understand being overstimulated, but I was looking forward to a fun night, especially since he kept saying how excited he was too. His behavior was unacceptable to me, and he ruined mine and other people's game day experiences. What should I do? Okay, first of all, I really hope this guy is your former best friend because he is an awful person. Seriously, you literally treated him to a night out. You paid for his tickets and you paid for parking. You quite literally were sharing something about your life with him that's very important to you. And instead of just playing along and being like a reasonable human being, even if he was like not enjoying himself, this guy decided to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be miserable and I'm gonna let everybody know how miserable I really am. Like, I can't imagine being that guy sitting in the back and being like, oh, this sucks. Those players are stupid. Everybody around me is so dumb. I'm in my own personal nightmare. Like, dude, what are you doing? No one's impressed by how much you dislike this game. And if you really hate it that much, then leave. Why even show up in the first place? This guy wasn't overstimulated, by the way. I think that's a total cop-out. I think that's him trying to backpedal and be like, oh, wait, I think I screwed things up. And I honestly think there might be some angle where he actually like really likes you in some kind of way. And he was trying to act cool by being like, I don't even like it here. This is like nothing for me. I'm suffering so much and I just hate this. You know, that kind of weird, like cocky attitude of like, oh, whatever, I can't have fun anywhere. I'm too tough for this. That kind of crap is probably what he was attempting to do, but it came off as super obnoxious. Because like, dude, if you don't like it, at least stay quiet and sit on your phone. Don't then go around and ruin everybody else's experience all because you're having a bad time. So no, I don't think you're the jerk and I don't think you overreacted at all. And in my opinion, I think it's time to find better friends because this guy absolutely sucks. An entitled crazy woman jumped into my car while I was on the street and demanded that I give her a ride home as she was desperately in need of a ride. But instead of kicking her out or getting the police involved, I decided the path of least resistance was just to go along with it and do exactly as she says, which in retrospect was probably the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was at a stop sign around lunchtime when a woman on the corner came running over to the passenger side of my car, screeching about needing to get home. I was driving a convertible with the top down, and she didn't wait for an answer. She just swung a leg over the door and plopped herself into the passenger seat, saying that she'd give me $5 for gas. She then told me that she lived in a nearby low-income public housing project. Now, I knew where it was about a mile and a half away, and she was pretty tweaky, but somehow seemed fairly harmless. She never even glanced at me, didn't seem to be plotting something, and never said another word. And here comes the part where you can probably give me a lot of crap. But I figured it was just easier to go a mile and a half out of my way than to deal with the drama of trying to get her out of my car. My backup plan for carjackings is just to drive into the first telephone pole I see or rear-end the first police car that I spot. I mean, it's better to deal with the aftermath of that than have your body dumped into an alley. So I get to the housing project and it was broad daylight, and I was right in front of the main entrance with people around, so I didn't feel in any danger. She then hopped out and ran off. Now, I wouldn't have taken the $5 even if she had offered it, which she didn't, by the way, but mostly I was pissed that she left the passenger door open as far as it could go. So I got out to go around to close it when an older guy in a silver pickup pulls up. He put his passenger window down and asked me if I knew that woman, and asked me if I was okay. I replied by saying, "Oh, I have no idea who she is, but yeah, I'm fine." He then explained that he had been coming down the street behind me when he saw that woman jump into my car. He followed me to see if anything sketchy was going to go down, and I gotta say, I was pretty stunned by the thoughtfulness. I then told him, "Wow, thanks. That was a pretty awesome thing to do." He then said to me, "Oh, I would have punched that lady right out of my truck." He then pointed a finger at me and sternly lectured me like I was one of his kids. Don't ever do that again. Now, of course, he was absolutely correct, and if it ever does happen again, let's hope it doesn't, I might just take his advice on the punching part. But seriously, just try to imagine the entitlement of jumping into a stranger's car because you needed a ride. Honestly, if she had picked the wrong vehicle, it could have turned into a lot worse of a situation for her. Oh my gosh, the original poster's crazy. There is no way I would ever go along with this. I would have done what that guy did and been like, "Oh yeah, we're about to start fighting if you don't get out of my car." Like, that's some crazy talk. There's no way that's appropriate, and oh my gosh, I can't believe you went along with it. You mean to tell me that it's way better for you to be like, "Oh yeah, we'll just drive a mile and a half," instead of, "Oh, I don't know, getting her out of my car"? Like, dude, what's happening right now? That's some crazy talk. So I know what I would have done in that situation, but what would you have done? Leave a comment down below. We would love to see what you have to say. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting upset at my friend who literally always complains anytime we go to a restaurant? Because seriously, I am so sick of hearing this, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that this isn't a huge deal, but I kind of lost it on one of my best friends this morning for constantly complaining every time we go to a restaurant. I've known her for about 5 years, and literally every time we go to a restaurant, she complains about waiting. Now, here's the thing. We have rarely had to wait an unreasonable amount of time. If the server isn't at our table within like a second, she'll say, "Oh my god, what in the world is taking so long?" Or she'll be like, "Where is our server at?" Or she'll be like, "Oh, why is our food taking so long?" Or some kind of iteration of that. And mind you, it's only been like a few minutes. In the last 5 years, I can only think of maybe one situation where the complaints were actually warranted, and she has never really been rude to a server besides maybe not saying thank you. It's usually at least one comment at every restaurant we go to, and we used to live together and eat out together very frequently. Today, we went to breakfast and sat down, and she says her usual speech of, "Oh, where's the server at? We've been waiting forever," when we've literally been there for a few minutes tops. At this point, I kind of got mad at her and I said, "You always do this at every restaurant we go to. You need to relax. We've hardly been waiting and they're doing the best they can." And when I said this, she kind of yelled at me and told me to calm down because it's not that big of a deal. And sure, maybe I shouldn't have said something, but I don't really know at this point. I'm just so fed up. So am I the jerk? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Yeah, that's one of those friends where I'd be like, "Okay, let's just order food and bring it back to one of our houses because I don't want to sit in a restaurant with you." Because that kind of impatience is like super irritating and I know I would go crazy. But regardless, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you were being completely reasonable, and the fact that your friend freaked out and tried to like be like, "Oh wow, calm down, you're getting so mad." Like, in my opinion, she's just projecting, and that is actually her problem and not yours. Am I the jerk for kicking out my friend's neurodivergent friend that they brought to my house after they nearly destroyed my $3,000 hearing aids? Because right now I'm pretty pissed off and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friends have this one friend that they bring along who is on the spectrum and high functioning. They can drive, live independently, clearly make friends, and holds down a job. So personally, I think that they can understand and respect boundaries. They have this annoying and disgusting habit of burping very forcefully, and it is so loud. And I have a sensitive nose and it really smells bad. Now, I don't care that they do that, but when this is in my literal personal space, less than 3 feet away, that is a serious issue. Now, I told them several times, don't do that when you are literally facing me and talking to me. Don't even do that if you're looking in my direction or eating right next to me, with an entire plate of food being passed around. But the end of my patience was then met when I had a gathering and my friends invited this person. Now, this friend came in and I was warm to them, and then when I go to the bathroom, I come back looking for them to tell them that we are eating dinner. And lo and behold, I find them playing with my hearing aids that I put in a device to dry them out since it was raining. Now, I literally need those for work and my safety, and other people playing with, let alone wearing them, is unsanitary. Well, I flipped out and I told them to put those down. But you know what they did? They burped in my face laughing, saying they were sorry, and then they tried to hug me. They dropped one of their hearing aids on the floor and almost spilled their drinks on it, and the puddle was barely touching it as I grabbed it. And mind you, these are $3,000 each. I then told this friend to let me go, and it was here that my friends were trying to get me to understand that this friend has trouble with these social cues. But here's what I said in response. Look, I'm allowed to decide what I put up with in my own personal space and who handles my medical devices. Anybody who can hold down a job, make friends, and live alone should be able to respect boundaries. I don't care if they're on the spectrum, that literally just doesn't mean anything on this. Well, my friends then left with this person, and I've been back and forth with one of them about this entire scenario. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk, but I guarantee you the rest of those idiots are just justifying whatever crappy behavior this person does. Seriously, they burped in your face, they tried to hug you and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," all before dropping your $3,000 hearing aids. Like, are you kidding me right now? This is absolutely unacceptable and there is no good excuse. And no, in case someone's wondering, being on the spectrum does not mean you get a free pass for being a weirdo. And burping in someone's face and just being disgusting, as well as violating their personal space and touching their belongings, like that's inappropriate and you absolutely deserve to get called out. So honestly, if these people really want to try and act like, oh wow, this is like a really unacceptable thing, they don't understand social cues, then maybe they should stay home and start to learn them, because the way they acted is completely out of line. My manager said that no phones are allowed during work hours, and despite the fact that I think this rule is incredibly stupid, I decided to maliciously comply, which eventually caused our entire server system to go down in a spectacular fashion. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work IT support for a medium-sized company. We've always been allowed to have our phones at our desks, and sometimes family emergencies happen or doctors call back or whatever. As long as we aren't scrolling social media all day, no one really cares. This new manager comes in last month, sees one person checking a text message, and then just loses it. They then send out an email. Effective immediately. No personal phones during work hours. They must be left in your car or in your locker. This means 9 to 5, no exceptions. Anyone caught with a phone will be written up. So I think to myself, okay boss, you got it. The thing is, our manager works from home 3 days a week. And when server issues pop up after hours or on the weekends, why don't you guess how he contacts us? That's right, he uses our personal phones. We literally don't even have company phones. Friday afternoon at about 4:45 p.m., we have a major server issue. Now this is something that I see and I could fix it in like 10 minutes, but my phone is in my car per the company policy. So I calmly finish my work at 5 o'clock and I just straight up walk out. By the time I get to my car and I check my phone at 5:15 p.m., I have 17 missed calls and a string of increasingly panicked text messages from my manager. The server has been down for 30 minutes and multiple departments can't do anything. I then call him back and I say, hey, I just got back to my car and I saw your calls. Is everything okay? Well, at this point, he is furious, asking why I didn't answer. I then reminded him about the no phones policy. He says that's different. This is an emergency. But I point out his email said no exceptions, and I was just following policy to avoid a write-up. Well, on Monday morning, we get a new email. It said the following: personal phones are permitted at desks for emergency purposes only, meaning that everything went back to normal and that this manager literally changed the rules for no good reason. Yep, I love this so much because micromanaging managers like this are so stupid. They're wasting people's time and they make life so much more difficult. So good for you for getting back at them, because they definitely needed to learn this lesson. Am I the jerk for not canceling my long-standing plans just so I could go to a barbecue at my grandparents' house that I found out about literally last week? Because right now my mom is saying that I'm being selfish, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife and I made plans back in January with a group of friends to go to a beer festival festival in the mountains. My father-in-law has a rental property in the mountains which we reserve for the weekend, and we all got tickets to the festival. It's 3 families and some other friends, so about 9 people in total. The festival is Labor Day weekend, and my grandparents invited us and some other family to a barbecue that weekend, but we won't be able to attend because we're doing the beer festival. I texted my grandpa and I let him know that we wouldn't be able to make it because we already had plans that weekend, and he said that he understood and that it was no problem. But then my mom texted me asking why we couldn't come, and I told her exactly why. She then told me she's very disappointed in me and that I need to make this barbecue a priority and that I should cancel the plans to go to the beer festival. She then goes on to guilt trip me, saying that my grandparents are in their 80s and that we won't have many more opportunities to get together. For context, we live in the same city and state as my grandparents, and we see them about 2 to 3 times a month at a bare minimum. She told me a beer festival is not a good reason to blow off my grandparents and that I need to reconsider my priorities. I then told her I couldn't cancel and that the house is booked and that the tickets are paid for. I then told her that if it was just our family and no friends going, then we would forego the festival and come to the barbecue. But I really just don't think it's fair to our friends to cancel a long-standing plan for a barbecue that we literally just found out about, not to mention telling them that they would either have to eat the cost of the tickets or find a different place to rent. I told my mom that if it was any other weekend or even Monday of the long weekend instead of Saturday, that we would be there and we're not blowing them off. It's a scheduling conflict, but even still, she disagrees and she is still very pissed off at me. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm so confused. No, you're not the jerk. This is so stupid. This barbecue came out of nowhere. Meanwhile, you've been planning this for a while. And I just love the fact that she's trying to guilt trip you by being like, oh, they're gonna die soon. We're not gonna have many more opportunities to get together as a family. And it's like, dude, we live in the same city. What are you talking about? I see these people all the time. It's not like you're neglecting them. Like, what's going on right now? This is so stupid. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your mom's being irrational and this is absolutely out of line. Am I the jerk for forcing my in-laws to use a toilet like everybody else instead of urinating in a jug in my home? Because they say they literally don't want to walk all the way upstairs to use the bathroom and would rather use a jug that they got from Amazon that they delivered to my house. Because right now I feel like I'm going crazy and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my in-laws are visiting my wife and I this week, and this trip was short notice, so they'll be staying at our home. Our guest bedroom that they will be staying in is in the basement of our house. It's spacious, it's clean and dry, but the only issue is that it does not have a bathroom associated with it, meaning that you have to walk up the basement stairs and halfway across the house just so you can get to our guest bathroom. Now, before arriving, my in-laws were complaining that it was too far of a walk to get to the bathroom from the basement. Now, we're offering them free lodging, so I figured they would just have to deal with it. However, yesterday we got an unprecedented Amazon package. My wife opened it up and pulled out a strange plastic container. I joked that it looked like one of those medical devices where you urinate in this jug, and the joke was on me because that's exactly what it was. My in-laws had ordered a device for them to urinate into instead of going to the bathroom upstairs. I told my wife absolutely not and that they had to use a toilet. Now, it's important to note that my in-laws are very healthy. They are able-bodied people and there is zero reason other than laziness for them to use a device like this. My in-laws arrived later yesterday night and we confronted them about their plan to urinate in the jug. They then joked about the device and they asked me, well, what else are we supposed to do? Use a litter box? And it's like, no, go upstairs and use the bathroom. Are you kidding me? Well, they're now complaining about having to go all the way upstairs. And I'm pretty sure they are secretly using a jug to go to the bathroom. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna lose my mind if I find out that they are using it down there. So am I the jerk for asking them to use a toilet like a normal human being? Because what they're trying to do is honestly blowing my mind. Okay, I gotta be honest here. The second anyone says, oh yeah, we're gonna pee in a jug instead of going upstairs. Sorry, but that's too far of a walk. Like the second I hear anything like that, I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're gonna go to a hotel right now. Like this is not even up for discussion. The toilet is there for a reason, people. We're not living in colonial times. Like what's going on right now? Either go to the bathroom in the proper space or get out of my house. Like these people had the audacity of being like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna pee in a jug instead of going upstairs. Like the order from Amazon is the best reason for like, oh yeah, this was super premeditated. So they literally weren't joking. They were like, oh man, that's too far of a walk. So I'm gonna pee in like, oh, I don't know, maybe a jug instead. So yeah, I would either put my foot down or tell them to leave because this is insane. And the fact that anyone would actually think that's a solution is really crazy to me. Am I the jerk for stealing back some Pokemon cards that my fiance's nephews literally keep stealing from my daughter? Because right now I am literally at my breaking point and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to set the background, my fiance and I have 3 children. children. And sometime last year, my daughter, who we will call Summer, started collecting Pokemon cards that her biological dad would gift her during visitation. For reference, Summer is 8 years old, and I haven't really kept up with Pokemon as I've aged, but I collected coins as a kid, and I love the idea of helping my daughter grow her collection as well. I've also supplemented the collection from Lucky Goodwill finds. It is about 5 binders worth of cards, with cards from between 1995 all the way to 2018 generally, and some are very rare. Well, my sister-in-law asked my fiance if we could babysit her 2 sons, her 8-year-old son by the name of Peter and her 7-year-old son by the name of Paul, and she wanted us to do this while they were out of town for the weekend, as she has to pick up her husband's nephew for something that's going on. Now, I was not keen on this for a few reasons. First of all, Peter has to attend an alternative school for anger issues and outbursts, and though they have become less frequent, I wouldn't know how to handle it if something happens. Secondly, Peter has had issues in the past with stealing money from my fiance and I, and this is anytime we would leave cash out in our own room. His mom would then get defensive about it, but $10 was never something I'd die on a hill for, so usually I would just drop it. It literally just wasn't worth it. But third, Peter has also tried to steal my daughter's Pokemon cards in the past, or some other cards that I have. Now, I did take them back, but this really blemished my relationship with my sister-in-law just a little bit. Now, despite all this, I hope the weekend could go smoothly, as she really needed the help. So my fiance and I agreed. However, last night while I was at work, Summer called and asked if she could give her Pokemon cards to Peter, and I could hear Peter whispering in the background when she said this. Well, I was very clear in saying no, because I couldn't advise if there would be a fair trade or if he would take the more valuable cards. Later on, I asked my daughter if she really wanted to give him the cards, and she finally said no. Well, this morning while tidying up my daughter's room, I saw that all the Pokemon binders were out. Well, I had a bad feeling, so I opened them up and I discovered that half the collection is missing. The binders were full, but now there were empty pages, and there were scattered cards missing. And when I saw this, I was so pissed off. I then went to Peter's backpack and I found cards from another game, as well as my daughter's full rock collection and a massive plastic bag with a bunch of Pokemon cards dumped in it. Well, I took everything back and I sorted my daughter's cards from Peter's, even though I was just going by the cards' print dates, as Peter only had cards from like 2022 and beyond, and I then put the sorted cards in a lunchbox. Now, I told my fiance about this at the time, but Peter and Paul have noticed their card stash is much lighter and started whining, saying that their aunt gifted them some older cards, but now they're missing. But honestly, I am so sick and tired of them thinking that they can just steal whatever they want from our house. So seriously, am I the jerk for not giving them any cards back, even if some of them are actually theirs? I'm worried they'll complain to my sister-in-law, but at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, if this is not the final straw to never let these kids over ever again, then I just don't know what is. Like seriously, this is so annoying. These kids are little brats and they're obviously stealing from you and your family. But to answer your question, no, of course you would not be the jerk. Who knows how many times these idiots have stolen from you? And now they have the audacity to be like, oh wait, no, don't do that. I was gifted these cards, you have to give them back. Like at that point, dude, I hope they do get the sister-in-law involved. Because if I was in this situation, I would love nothing more than to chew her out and say, look, I'm never helping you again. This is absolutely uncalled for. So no, you're absolutely not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And in my opinion, this is just a little bit of karma coming towards Paul and Peter, because these brats absolutely deserve this in my opinion. Am I overreacting after my roommate refused to turn on the air conditioning even though it's been over 100-degree weather? Because she says that because she's anemic, she doesn't want the AC on because it's uncomfortable for her. But right now, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I spent my first week in my freshman year dorm and things were going great until a few days ago. I was unable to get to sleep on a school night because my room was so hot. I mentioned this to my roommate and she said that she turned the AC off because she has anemia and it makes her cold. I try to be understanding, but we are currently in a huge heat wave in Arizona, and I'm not from here, so it already has been hard for me to adjust to the harsh temperature. I thought we had reached some kind of understanding, but then last night the same thing happened again. We're also on the 14th level, so it is impossible to open my window to let in some air because it would literally just be hot air. I couldn't go to sleep, so finally, after hours of suffering in silence, I texted her and I asked if the AC was on. Well, the message said that they received it and that they read it, and yet she simply didn't respond to me. I then asked again, but still I got no answer. I figured I'd try to deal with it in the morning, but when the morning came, she said that she had turned it off, but then said she would turn the AC on because she would be gone for most of the day. And I figured that that was that. She then texted me later, only after I'd asked if it was on, to say that she forgot to turn it on. Now, maybe she honestly just did, but the fact that she said that she had turned it on and told me afterwards that she did suggests that she wasn't being truthful. She has now been gone for almost the entire day, and and it's reached up to about 100 degrees in my room. I can't go into her room because it's locked, and my RA cannot help me because it invades her privacy. I've now been forced to leave the room to go somewhere colder. She isn't sure when she'll be back, which means I won't be able to go in the room for a while longer. And I've got to be honest, this is really frustrating because she missed a mandatory meeting where we would have discussed these matters because she instead chose to talk to a friend on the phone. So am I overreacting for telling her that she needs to keep the AC on? I understand she has a health condition, but my RA said that she could put more layers on. Plus, she is controlling my side of the room as well, so I'm unable to have air conditioning in over 100-degree heat and 25% humidity. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because right now I'm really getting frustrated. Okay, there is no way I would ever put up with this, dude. I've got to be honest, I probably would lose my mind. Because seriously, they can put on more layers if they're really that cold. Don't make everybody else suffer just because of that. This must be like one of those situations where like the AC unit controls are on her side, and she's the one that controls it and says, okay, well, I'm just gonna turn it off. I have anemia, forget my roommate. I don't care if they're sweating to death, that's not my problem. Like, how selfish and entitled can you possibly get? Like, dude, what's going on right now? So if I was in your shoes, I would work with someone on campus to get this sorted out, because this really is insane in my opinion. Because what she's doing is very unsafe and could be hazardous to your health. My former landlord tried to scam me out of thousands of dollars as he tried to claim that I had damaged his apartment in a way that went beyond my security deposit. But once I explained to my landlord that I am fully ready to go to small claims court with legitimate evidence to prove him wrong, this jerk decided to change his tune real quick, backing down in a way that honestly was really funny. Here's how it all went down. So a few years ago, I had moved out of an apartment that I had rented for almost 3 years. I took great care of the place and I cleaned it thoroughly before leaving, and I even fixed a couple of minor things that technically weren't even my responsibility. Well, a week after moving out, my former landlord emailed me, claiming that I had caused thousands of dollars in damages and that he would be keeping my entire security deposit. The list of supposed damages was ridiculous. Things like there being a worn-out carpet that was already old when I moved in, or there were stains on the wall that were clearly just normal wear and tear, or even a charge for replacing appliances that literally hadn't been touched in years. Now, I knew he was trying to scam me because I had taken detailed photos and videos of the entire apartment the day that I moved in, and I did the same thing again when I moved out. I responded politely at first, providing the date-stamped photos proving everything was in great condition, but he ignored me, and he sent me a final notice demanding payment for additional costs beyond my deposit, and it was right then that I decided to escalate. I sent him one last email, letting him know that I had all documentation ready, and that if he didn't return my full deposit within 5 business days, I would be filing a claim in small claims court, as well as contacting the local tenant board. He then went silent for 4 days, and then like magic, I got a check in the mail for my full deposit plus some interest. And of course, I got no apology and no explanation. I just got back the money that he tried to steal. And honestly, it felt so good knowing that being prepared and standing my ground finally paid off. I've heard so many terrible stories about landlords getting away with this stuff, so it was really satisfying to finally turn the tables. Okay, this landlord sucks for several reasons, but I think worst of all is that I'm willing to bet he's probably done this with previous tenants. He probably leaves all these things like kind of broken and all over the place, especially with the appliances and the walls and the carpets, just so he can go to these people and be like, I'm actually keeping that money, and I'm gonna have to charge you more. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. But thank goodness the original poster actually took videos of everything. Like, that's a genius way to handle things, and I think if you are getting a new apartment and you're definitely renting, like, that is something you absolutely have to do. So good for you, because I honestly can't imagine trying to get scammed like this, because this really would be a nightmare if you didn't have definitive proof. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for calling the non-emergency police line on my neighbors as their smoke alarm was going off and I literally smelled gas outside near their house? Because my boyfriend says I made a big deal out of nothing and that I should never call the police under any circumstance, leaving me kind of scratching my head if I did anything wrong because this situation was incredibly confusing. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that it's hot out and I live in an area where you can leave your doors open at night. So I woke up to my dog crying and a strong smell of something. I'm not exactly sure what it was. It wasn't gas, but I thought maybe it was kerosene though. But honestly, I'm not exactly sure what it smells like either. But I also know that people do camp in our alley. So I went out just to check that none of our things were leaking or there was like a fire or something like that. And I then heard my neighbor's smoke alarm going off. I walked over to their place and there were no lights on or any cars in the driveway. I then played fetch with my dog a bit just to calm her down, but the alarm never went off. So I called the non-emergency police line, and let me tell you, that lady was less than nice. She wouldn't listen listen to any details and just got angrier and angrier because I gave her the wrong address. Now, mind you, I have not lived here that long, and I was previously asleep and I wanted to be back asleep, so I guess I transposed some numbers by accident. Anyways, all this commotion woke my boyfriend up, and then he was livid because he thinks you should never call the cops. But literally at this point, their alarm had been going off for like an hour, and I don't think it was a fire because I didn't see any smoke, and I don't think it was carbon monoxide because that doesn't smell, but there was a definitive gas smell in the neighborhood. They eventually came back an hour ago and the alarm is off, and the smell is gone, so I think that's a good thing, but he is still super mad about it. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I was just trying to help and I didn't think I did anything wrong. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You literally smell gas and there's an alarm going off in your neighbor's house. Like seriously, that's something I absolutely would call the cops about as well, especially if my neighbors aren't home. Like you're just trying to be a responsible neighbor. It's not like you're trying to like get anybody in trouble. You obviously don't want their house to burn down. Like seriously, you're just trying to be nice and like do the right thing. So no, you're not the jerk. I think your boyfriend's being weird, and honestly, I think there are good reasons to call the cops, especially if there's a risk of your neighbor's house possibly lighting on fire. I am so sick of my mom controlling what I wear or how I decorate my room. And despite the fact that I'm moving out in 2 weeks, I'm honestly still scratching my head of how to deal with these people in my life, because right now I feel so stuck. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I'm actually moving out of my parents' house in 2 weeks, so that is a really good thing to look forward to. But I hate how my mom tries to dictate what I should and shouldn't wear. She thinks that just because I'm an adult and no longer a teenager, I should be more classy and not wear as much crop tops and jeans. But literally, I do wear different types of things. Like I swear I wear skirts and dresses too, but I hate how much I have to walk on eggshells or have anxiety over what outfits to wear every time I'm going out. I used to feel so good about myself in my clothing, but now I just don't know anymore. Not to mention, she wants me to decorate my room in a more classy and adult-like way, so she's saying I can't have any LED lights up, no tapestries or posters, and I'm honestly worried that once I move out, I'm gonna have a hard time with that because I'm scared of her reactions when she comes over and sees my bedroom. I find it really hard to set boundaries or stand up for myself in any kind of way, but I feel like not many people my age have to go through this level of control, and I'm honestly just so fed up and tired. I want to feel independent when I'm living on my own, but I'm worried I won't ever achieve that feeling because right now I seriously feel so stuck. Okay, honestly, as someone who does live by themselves, it is the best. Seriously, moving away from your family and like having your own place to yourself is a lot of fun. But I cannot emphasize this enough, and someone in the comments said this and I can't agree more. Under no circumstance should you ever give your parents a key to your home, because based on what you're describing, I guarantee you they'll take advantage of that and be like, okay, now we have full access to where you live. And that's not cool, man. You don't want that kind of energy in your life, and you really don't want them all over you still even as you move out, because the new place you're gonna live at is gonna be something you can customize however you want, meaning that this is a place your mom has absolutely no say over. A pair of entitled boomers are literally trash-talking Canadians while they take a cruise just so they could see Canada. And I'm honestly baffled at this massive waste of money that they made, especially if they don't like Canada in the first place. Here's how it all went down. I live in Michigan on the shore of Lake Huron, and just under it to be more specific. For my birthday this weekend, we went on a small local cruise that's about 2 hours that goes along the Canadian shore of St. Clair River, a bit into Lake Huron, a few port tours of Sarnia and Ontario, and then back again to where we started. My girlfriend is also Canadian and joined me on this cruise. Well, these two old people sit next to us, and we don't think anything of it and just ignore them, to be completely honest. There's no assigned seating on the boat, and we got some prime seats at the top deck for us just being early for boarding, so we kind of expected it. However, as we got closer to Canada, they started to complain. They started saying stuff like, man, they wish they were Americans. You know, our dollar is like 20 to theirs, which is laughably untrue, by the way. Look at them, just sitting there longing for America. Now, at this point, I don't want to make a huge scene because it is a tiny boat, and while technically a cruise, it can still only have like 100 people, and it's more like a small yacht than a standard cruise ship. I started talking to my girlfriend casually, but specifically about Canadian things. For example, at one point we saw some Canadian geese, and I talked loudly enough for the boomer couple to hear me say how ironic it is that a Canadian hates Canadian geese, basically just making them aware that they're sitting next to a Canadian and a soon-to-be one. Well, they actually stopped their crap after that, and if anything, they just avoided us even more, much to our happiness. We were thinking of moving seats if they kept going, but thankfully we didn't have to do that. Now, aside from the annoying political trash talk, I really want to know their thinking process here. Like, if you really hate Canadians, why are you going to take a cruise that costs more money so that you can look at Canadians, Canada, and get even more mad the entire time about it? It baffles me that someone would spend their Saturday doing that because honestly, this just doesn't make any sense. Okay, as someone from America, I can't stand people who act like this. They like to pretend that this country's perfect and they're like, oh yeah, these people want to be Americans. And sure, if it's like a third world country and they're like, yeah, my life sucks and I don't have like roads or anything like that, then sure, they could be like, oh man, I wish I lived in America. But Canada is not a third world country. It's a first world country, dude. Like, what's going on right now? They're just as technologically advanced as America, dude. Like, what's happening? Why would you sit there on a boat and be like, oh wow, look at them. They wish they were in America. Meanwhile, it's like a literal flaming dumpster fire over here. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? As if we want to give people from other countries more of a reason not to like this country altogether. So yeah, these people were completely out of their mind and they were so stupid for acting this way. And I'm so glad you said something because that clearly got the message through that they were acting incredibly dumb. My entitled aunt doesn't believe that we matter as a family, as she is going out of her way to make sure she's the only one that gets any kind of inheritance from my grandma and grandpa. And honestly, this is exhausting to see and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this story is about my entitled aunt. She has always been a bit snobby, and that has sort of shaped how I and my side of the family interact with her and her side. My aunt has 3 kids and had been married 3 times. All of the men had been past friends of my dad's, and I think most of them were from college. The 2 oldest kids are my older cousins, and they're both girls, and they are from the first husband, and the 3rd kid, who is my little cousin who is a boy, he comes from the 3rd husband. My aunt and uncle have always done things for the benefit of just their family, and I seriously mean just the nuclear family. While my 2 older cousins would split their time between their parents, my aunt and uncle really focus on themselves and their son. My aunt and uncle treated my older cousins a lot differently than my younger cousin, and it seemed to affect them to the point that my older 2 cousins don't really have anything to do with my aunt and uncle anymore unless they absolutely need to. In the last few years, multiple things have changed for the family as a whole. My dad passed when he was relatively young. My mom, who had breast cancer when we were all younger, had her cancer come back during COVID, and it came back affecting her bones now. My grandpa also passed away in the last year, and all of this has given me the perception that life is something to be cherished, and it's not a for sure thing. Now, I'm saying this because things have been happening, and some things were mentioned about their wills. My grandpa passed away, and we have had talks about different things and how people want things when they go, which brings my aunt and uncle back into the fold. Apparently, at some point after grandpa passed away, my aunt talked to grandma and brought up how she, my aunt, was the only one left, so she would get everything after my grandma died. Now, first off, I don't want to think about losing grandma yet. I want her for however much longer we have her, but I do understand these talks sometimes need to happen. But I don't think I would ever say anything like this if I was in my aunt's shoes. Well, my grandma told my mom that my aunt had said all of this, and apparently my grandma's response back was to say, well, your brother had a family too. We're not just going to take away an inheritance from them just because he has passed away as well. Now, add to this on top of other claims that my aunt and uncle have said that the farm should be theirs, and how they will turn the nice horse barn that grandpa had built for grandma into some sort of cattle barn, and essentially kick my mother and sister out from usage of it, as well as a younger cousin who doesn't fall very far from either of his parents' trees, that grandpa promised him a certain amount of land. Now, mind you, this amount of land is a large portion of what my grandparents own in its entirety. If grandpa had promised younger cousins this amount of land, grandpa really would have tried to keep stuff equal for the rest of us. And also, there's 5 of us grandchildren in total. What my younger cousin is claiming would not have been feasibly possible to divide up the land that they own, as well as give all of us equal amounts if the amount my little cousin is saying is the amount stated. And yeah, I know I'm really just ranting about family, and I know there is nothing that I can do in this situation because there is honestly no need for it. My grandma and grandpa, before he passed away, took care of it, and I just need to get this off my chest about what is happening because honestly, my aunt is an exhausting person and I just don't know how to deal with this. Yeah, I've said it once, but I'll say it again. When money and property gets involved, people change, especially family. And I don't think it changes people in a bad way. If anything, it kind of like reveals who they really are. And hopefully, for the sake of like everybody's sanity, everyone sees exactly the way the aunt and uncle in this story truly are. They are selfish, greedy people who want everything, and they would happily watch you perish away with nothing if they can get it all in return. So hopefully all of this really is taken care of like you're saying, because I'm positive if given the chance, your aunt would happily betray the entire family just to get exactly what she wants. Am I the jerk for putting my neighbor's garbage onto their front porches after they literally refuse to put it in the proper container it's meant to go in? Because I am so tired of seeing this trash all over the place, but I'm really not sure if I might have crossed a line. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in a townhouse community. We have communal garbage chutes outside that are divided into garbage, compost, and recycling. The chutes have hatches on them that you have to open and then just simply drop the garbage down onto a main collection room. However, my neighbors seem to be unable to do this for some reason, and they simply dump their garbage bags bags, the recycling, and everything on the ground outside of the chutes. Some of them I imagine don't want to touch the handles on the chutes, or they're just completely lazy. The management has sent multiple emails about this and the concerns regarding pests, rodents, and all the strata fees going up because someone has to be paid to clean up the mess on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. But today I had had enough, and I saw that several people had dumped their trash beside the chutes, causing it to spill over onto the sidewalk. A few of the pieces of trash were Amazon boxes with their addresses right on them. So I picked up the trash into those boxes, I walked them over to their doors, and I dropped them there. One of the neighbors saw me from their window and said, "What are you doing?" And I replied by saying, "Well, apparently you dropped this. It wasn't in the trash. Next time, put it where it's supposed to be." They then told me to get lost, and I just walked away. I emailed pictures of their mess to the property manager too, and there's a $50 fine for each time someone does it. So seriously, am I the jerk for doing this? It's just as easy to drop things down the chute as it is to walk over to them, drop your garbage all over the ground, and have someone else have to deal with it. And mind you, this is a lot of garbage, and I'm honestly so sick of seeing it. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This is so obnoxious and it makes the entire place look bad. Because if it really is as easy as you're saying, then holy crap, there's no excuse here. They literally should be able to just throw this stuff away, no problem. Especially if it's not like overfilled or anything like that. Just put it in there and then everybody's happy. So no, you're not the jerk because this is literally the consequence of their actions, and honestly, they need to own up to it. My landlord mistakenly moves all of my stuff out of my apartment when I literally still had 5 days left on our lease. So I decided to get some revenge by hiding raw chicken all over the apartment, eventually making this place unlivable because of the smell. Here's how I did it. About 15 years ago, I had a 5-year-old and an infant. We lived in Texas in these awful apartments. The air conditioning rarely worked, there was a huge roast infestation that we couldn't get rid of, there was flooding, there was mold, and honestly, I think you get the point. Well, our lease was finally coming to an end. So we stayed at our new apartment the first day to enjoy the air conditioning and planned on finishing the small stuff that following day. But to my surprise, when we arrived, they had moved all of the appliances to another unit and just emptied my freezer into trash bags. The worst part about it is that they put the bags on our porch in the Texas heat. So I was really pissed off and I marched right into the leasing office. They claimed they thought that we had finished moving out and it was somehow just a misunderstanding. They then said they needed the appliance for a new move-in. On top of this, they refused to compensate me for the hundreds of dollars of meat they ruined, knowing dang well that there was still 5 days left on our lease. So my boyfriend and I decided to get some revenge. And this is where we took some chicken and placed it throughout the apartment in places they wouldn't normally look, like in the vents, behind the toilet tanks, etc. And remember, the air conditioning didn't work. Plus, it was really hot that summer. We went back a week later and they had the door wide open, maybe trying to air the place out. And honestly, I couldn't even get past the door due to the smell and all of the flies. Well, needless to say, I never got an invoice or my deposit back, but I'm willing to bet that they had a lot of trouble renting that apartment out for quite some time. Dude, that is some brave decisions you made there, holy crap. You literally decided to hide raw chicken all over that place to get revenge on them, knowing full well that this was going to stink up that place. And I don't know if you've ever had to deal with raw chicken that's gone bad, but oh my gosh, it smells so bad. I've made that mistake once, and trust me, I will never make that mistake again. Because just like it's being described, that's like a magnet for flies, dude. It's a quick way to ruin your apartment and pretty much everything around you. So good for you for getting revenge because these people definitely deserve it. Am I the jerk for asking a woman at my residential gym to please stop talking so loudly on the phone during her workout? Because now as a result, she's basically started acting out even worse. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake or what to do in this situation. Here's what's going on. So I live in an apartment building that has a small residents-only fitness center. Recently, one of the new residents starts coming in almost every single time that I'm there. She spends about 45 minutes or more talking very loudly on the phone while walking on the treadmill or just sitting on the bench. She wears headphones so she doesn't realize that she's basically shouting across the entire gym. Her conversations usually last the entire time she's in the gym, and on top of that, she sometimes laughs out loud very loudly, or she drops machine handles down so that they slam with a loud crash. And trust me, it makes it really hard for anyone else to focus on anything. Now, most of the other residents are too shy to say anything about this, so I decided to politely ask her if she would please just finish her call after her workout. When I said this, she completely ignored me and just kept talking. But the next time she came back, she behaved even more disruptively, and it feels like she didn't like my comment and is now acting out on purpose. The administration doesn't monitor the gym at all, since it is just part of the building, so there are no staff members around to enforce basic etiquette. I feel like I was polite and reasonable, since phone calls at full volume in a small shared space are incredibly disruptive, but I really need to know, did I cross a line here by telling her to stop talking so loudly? Because this really is bothering a lot of people and I just don't know what to do. Oh, I'm so glad I found this story because this literally is one of my biggest pet peeves on planet Earth. If you're gonna be on your phone, have the decency to at least be quiet. Don't be loud and obnoxious in a crowded setting, like that's so stupid. I don't want to hear what you're talking about, and I don't want to hear how much fun you're having. Like seriously, just shut up and get a room or go anywhere else. Don't do this in a space where people are trying to focus on other things. This is like in the same vein of people who will literally play a YouTube video on their phone as loud as possible with no headphones or anything. Like they just don't care about what's going on around them, or that they might be disrupting other people that are in the vicinity. So no, you're not the jerk for saying something, because I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for telling a friend that she can't come with me to a concert anymore, all because she didn't pay me back for the tickets I bought for her in a timely fashion? Here's how it's all going down. So I've purchased 2 tickets back in April for myself and a friend to come with me. As she has kids and asked if she could pay later, I just didn't pressure her. But fast forward to 2 weeks ago, and I started getting antsy about it, and I asked her to pay me back for her ticket. She said she would, but 2 weeks pass and still nothing has happened. I then asked her Friday night if she could pay me back, saying I could use the money for the weekend, to which she replied, yeah, I'll do it. Well, Sunday rolls around and halfway through the day, I still haven't received anything. Now, I hate canceling on people, but at that point, I told her I would just take someone else, to which she replied about her struggles and how stressed out she was. And she tried saying that I even told her that she could go for free, which is honestly completely false. She did eventually send me money, but it was far less than the agreed amount. And she only did this after I went after her like 3 different times. So you know what? I just sent the money back and I got someone else to come with me. And on one hand, I do feel like crap, but also I feel like my needs were not in consideration at all. So am I the jerk right now? Because this really is a tough situation. Okay, honestly, the fact that she's not willing to pay it back immediately, in my opinion, is a big red flag. I don't care if someone has kids or any other kind of problems in their life. If I tell them I'm buying a ticket for them for a concert, I expect them to pay it back the first time I ask about it, not the second or third. That's inappropriate. That's completely uncalled for and very rude. So no, you're not the jerk here, because honestly, she needed to pay you back. And the fact that she was unwilling to do so in a timely manner is incredibly annoying. My psycho husband said that I was spending too much time thinking about my dead father, and so as a way of me getting over the fact that he passed away, he threw away all of my late father's belongings, including some audio tapes that I was looking forward to listening to on my 30th birthday, as he tried to claim this wasn't a big deal, despite the fact that he knew I was looking forward to this for my entire life. And now I feel like I'm at a crossroads, because right now I'm devastated and I seriously don't know what to do moving forward. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things out, my dad passed away when I was young. He had cancer and knew he wasn't going to make it, so before he died, he recorded a bunch of audio messages and videos for me. These were birthday messages, graduation messages, wedding day messages, just in case he wasn't there. My mom kept them all in a box, and when I moved out, she gave them to me. Now, I met my husband about 6 years ago, and he has always known about my dad and the recordings. I told him early on that I was saving some of them to listen to at specific milestones, and I haven't opened all of them yet because I wanted to wait for the right moments. My husband has made comments before about how I talk about my dad way too much, how I should focus on the present, how it's not healthy to hold on to the past. I tried to explain that my dad is part of who I am, and I don't think remembering him is unhealthy, but he would get quiet or just change the subject altogether. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that my 30th birthday was coming up, and I was planning to finally listen to the message my dad recorded for that. My husband then got a weird look on his face and didn't say anything. Well, yesterday, I went to get the box and it was gone. I tore the house apart looking for it. When I asked my husband, he finally told me that he threw it away. He said I needed to move on and that he was doing me a favor. And when he said this, I completely lost it. I started crying and yelling, and he just stood there saying that he didn't think it was that big of a deal, that it was just old tapes, that my dad has been gone for over 20 years and I need to let it go. I then locked myself in the bedroom and I haven't spoken to him ever since. He's been texting me and apologizing, saying he didn't realize how much it meant to me, and even his family's been reaching out to me saying I need to forgive him and move forward. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to speak to him? Because right now I'm very hurt and I don't know what else to do. Okay, holy crap, this is awful. You mean to tell me that your husband, someone who not only knows about the grief you carry on a day-to-day basis, and someone who's known that these recordings mean more to you than anything else in your life right now, actively and willingly threw away all those tapes as some kind of message that you need to move on with your life and let it go? Like, that is such a betrayal of trust, it's not even funny. Like, I would be devastated if someone did that to me. Just even thinking about putting myself in that scenario, that is devastating. Because you know what? I'm willing to bet that the original poster has moved on from their father passing away, but these milestones still meant something to you. It was something to look forward to, of like, hey, you know what? I did what my dad was hoping I would do with my life, and now for the first time, I get to hear exactly how he feels. But instead of having those moments of like resolution and feeling good about yourself and reminiscing on a loved one that's passed away, your husband decided to yank that away from you and say, no, you don't get those moments. And now he's thrown them out saying like, oh, you need to move on. You need to let go of this. Your dad is gone. It's been 20 years. And it's like, dude, this isn't like some unhealthy habit. It's not disturbing your relationship with your wife. Like, why would you go out of your way to destroy that? Like, at this point, I'm kind of just thinking that your husband hates you, and he even almost like hates the idea of your dad. Like, I would be willing to bet this guy's probably a narcissist of some kind. Like, this is so unbelievably gross. And worst part about it is that this is a choice he made. This wasn't even like, oh, I accidentally threw it out, my bad. Like, no, he went out of his way. He found those tapes and he said, I'm throwing this away. And honestly, that is devastating, and I'm so sorry that happened. Now, I can only speak for myself, and I can only speak about like what I would do in this scenario, but for me, and I'm not giving advice, I'm just saying what I would do, I personally would absolutely start leaving this person. I would never want to stay with someone like this, especially if they're going to betray my trust in this way. Like, this is crazy to me. Like, grade A actual psychopath behavior, because you will never get those items back ever, and that is a selfish choice that I would never let them live down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my coworker put her name on a project that she barely touched after my manager basically said I did an outstanding job? Because right now my coworker is very pissed off that I'm not giving them any kind of credit for what I did. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake or if I'm justified in doing this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in a small office, and last month I was put in charge of a client presentation that ended up being a pretty big deal for our team. I did the research after hours, I built the slides, I wrote the talking points and rehearsed it twice. One coworker was technically assigned to the project too, but she was out sick for a week and then busy with other tasks. She glanced at the draft once and said, okay, it looks good. After the presentation went really well, my manager praised me in a team meeting and mentioned it might be used as a template going forward. Later that day, the coworker pulled me aside and said it would be fair if we both got credit since her name was originally on the task. I told her I was uncomfortable with that since she didn't really contribute. I tried to be calm, but she got defensive very fast. She said I was gatekeeping success and that teamwork means sharing wins. I reminded her that I had asked for her help earlier and she declined. She then rolled her eyes and said, wow, okay, guess I know what kind of person you are. Since then, things have been really awkward. She makes little comments like, must be nice to hog all the praise. And a couple of other people have asked me why I'm being so intense about it. Part of me feels bad because I don't want office drama, and I get that being left out really sucks. But another part of me feels like credit should match effort. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't expect my name on something I didn't help with. My manager hasn't said anything yet, but I worry this could blow up later. So am I being the jerk for standing my ground here? Or should I have just shared the credit to keep things smooth? What should I do? Okay, this is giving me flashback to like college and high school where you have a group project that one person doesn't help out with, and then that person comes in and says, oh, I want to be on it as well. But it's like, dude, you did nothing to help out with this. You literally did nothing. I did all this work and suddenly you want to slap your name on the back of it? Like, no, I don't think so. So no, you're not the jerk. This person is an idiot. They're really just trying to take credit for your hard work and be like, oh, I helped out as well. When you're a team, it means you share the wins. You're gatekeeping success. And it's like, no, you're not gatekeeping anything. This is called doing your job and reaping the rewards. And in my opinion, this coworker doesn't deserve any of the rewards because she didn't do anything to help out. Am I the jerk for calling out a customer who was screaming at a young employee who was just doing her best after making a small mistake? Because after reflecting on it, I'm honestly not sure if I should have just stayed quiet or if I was justified in saying something in the first place. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was at a store picking up a few things, and the line was really long and it was moving slow. The employee at the register looked young, probably still in high school, and you could tell that she was newer because she was a little unsure with some of the buttons. But she was being polite and she was doing her best. Well, the woman ahead of me was getting more and more impatient. She was sighing loudly, checking her phone, and making faces. Then the cashier made a small mistake and had to call someone over to fix it. It was nothing major, it was just like a quick void that needed to be taken care of. Well, that's when this entitled Karen went off. She started saying things like, "This is ridiculous. How hard is it to do your job? You're wasting everybody's time." She just kept going and getting louder. The cashier was clearly trying not to cry, but her eyes were watering and her hands were shaking. I waited to see if she would stop, but she didn't. So I said something. I told her she didn't need to talk to someone like that over a small mistake, that the girl was obviously trying and she should have some patience. The woman then told me to mind my business, but I said it became my business when she made a teenager cry in front of a line of people over nothing. So with all that in mind, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation for saying anything, or was this lady actually justified in getting upset? Because right now, I'm not sure what to feel. Honestly, I've said this once and I'll say it again, the way you treat someone in customer service, in my opinion, really is a reflection of who you are as a person. If you treat them with kindness or just neutrally, in my opinion, I think you're a good person, but if you're aggressively rude to them over like a small mistake, then congratulations, I think you're a garbage human being. And the Karen in this story absolutely sucked, dude. There's no reason to scream at a teenager doing their best at a job that is probably one of the first ones they've ever worked. Making them cry is not going to make anything better. If anything, it's going to make the entire process longer, and it's going to show everybody around you that, yeah, you're a piece of crap. So no, you're not the jerk for speaking up. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing, because that kind of behavior absolutely deserves to be shut down. Am I the jerk for telling my friend to go home after he stole my phone and messaged people on my Snapchat? Because he literally tried to justify it by saying he was going to get me a girlfriend for once, but for me, I was just so pissed off that he did this without even talking to me first. But now that the dust is settled, I'm honestly wondering if I'm in the wrong here, because right now I don't know what else to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so this happened a week ago and I finally felt like sharing it. So it all began when my parents were going out of town for the weekend for their anniversary. They knew leaving me home alone on my own as a teenager might not be the best idea, plus they knew that I would be bored on my own. So they said I could invite some friends over for the weekend to keep me company. However, this was during school break and almost all my friends were out on holidays, so I invited the only friend I had that was still in town, who I will call Nathan for the sake of the story. When he arrived, my parents left, and we went into my living room and chilled out for a bit. We played some games for a bit, and we helped ourselves to some burgers from this burger place in our town using some of the money my parents had left me. Fast forward to later in the afternoon, and we're both just sitting in the living room when my friend got up and walked to the bathroom. He put down what I thought was his phone, but upon further inspection, it was actually my phone. I got onto it to see what he was doing, and it turns out he was messaging and spam calling people under my account. For context, I have a few girls my age on my Snapchat that I talk to on and off again, and I try not to message them all the time. I don't want to come off as being into any of them because I'm currently not looking for anything serious, as I'm only just entering my senior years in high school. But this guy was literally texting all these girls, saying, "Hey, can I get your number?" Or even saying stuff like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" And honestly, I'm not even upset about him doing that because, like, who knows? I might get lucky. But it was the fact that he did this without me knowing, let alone the fact that he didn't even ask to use my phone in the first place. And the reaction he gave me after I confronted him did not help either. When I asked him why he did that, he would either laugh or respond with a joke or an insult. I said to him, "Dude, why would you message these people?" And Nathan responded back by saying, "Oh, because you don't have a missus yet." And this is an Australian saying, just for reference. I then looked at him and I said, "Look, man, I appreciate you trying to hook me up, but I'm not ready for this kind of thing yet. You really should have asked me first." He then said to me, "Oh, come on, so what if I sent them messages?" But I said back to him, "Okay, well, they think it's me sending those messages, and they're going to confront me when school goes back." Nathan then said to me, "Well, maybe if they do confront you, you'll finally get a girl for once." Now, at that point, I had enough, and I just told him he had to go home. He tried protesting this, but it was just really embarrassing, and I really just didn't want to hear him talk anymore. Eventually, though, he did end up leaving. Well, since then, I've tried reaching out to clear the air, but he won't answer any of my text messages or calls. So I want to know if it's worth reaching out just to make amends, because it's starting to really get to me. Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk. Okay, no, you're not the jerk. This is a huge violation of privacy and trust. Your friend literally decided to go through your phone and message people, all under the guise of like, "Bro, I'm trying to help you out. I'm gonna get you a girl for once." But it's like, dude, what are you doing? You cannot do that to me and expect me to be okay with that. Because for me, in my opinion, it's the principle of the matter that really pisses me off. Like, bro, maybe just don't go through my phone. Have you thought about that? Like, come on. It is incredibly obnoxious that this guy really thinks he's justified in the way he acted. Like, bro, there is no getting around this. You messed up by doing that. Can you imagine if you did the same thing to him? Like you going on his Snapchat and asking every girl, hey, can I get your number? Do you have a boyfriend? Like that alone is going to cause so many problems as soon as school gets back in. Like that is obnoxious. So no, you're not the jerk. This is absolutely uncalled for. And in my opinion, I would never let this friend back in my home ever again. Because if he's willing to go through your phone and try to sabotage your relationships, then he's probably able to do a lot worse than this, and I just would not want to find out what that is. My husband keeps waking me up for non-emergencies in the middle of the night, putting me in a situation where I'm losing sleep and I'm losing my patience. And I really want to address this with my husband, but I'm not sure if I would be overreacting by addressing this or if he's justified to wake me up for whatever's going on. Because right now I'm just sleepy and I'm tired and I just don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband has been in the habit of barging into the room and waking me up from a dead sleep for non-emergencies. For a little bit of context, we currently sleep in separate bedrooms. This started because I couldn't get good sleep. I tend to go to bed earlier than him, and I kept getting woken up through the night when he would come to bed. I'm a light sleeper, so I just brushed things off that would wake me up. But he is also a restless sleeper, and him constantly moving would wake me up for hours until he was able to fall asleep. I also snore, and he's expressed that it makes it hard for him to fall asleep as well. And when I would have a hard time sleeping, I would just get up and go sleep in the extra bedroom. He would then get upset because we weren't sleeping in the same bed and started telling me he was scared to move in bed because he didn't want to wake me up. I tried harder to stay in the room, but it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I was having a hard time functioning during the day, and it finally came to a head when we got into an argument that involved him following me to the extra bedroom, yelling at me that I need to make a choice where I'm sleeping, and me yelling back that I'm sleeping in there every night from now on. Well, fast forward to a night when he was working late, and he had a rough day. Earlier in the day, something happened with our Fire Stick remotes, and one ended up not being synced up to the correct TV and didn't work in the bedroom. Well, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, he barged into the extra room demanding me to fix it and explained exactly what was going on. In fact, he forced me out of bed to try and fix it. I was so groggy, I couldn't even think straight. I finally put it together what had happened, but wasn't sure how to fix it in the moment. This then turned into an argument in the middle of the night, me yelling at him that he simply could have just scrolled through his phone like he always does anyways, and just wait until the morning to figure it out. He then got offended that I said all he does is scroll through his phone and then just cut off any communication. Well, lo and behold, the next morning the remote synced itself, and the problem solved itself altogether. Then again, last night, I got woken up because he was worried he had pink eye. He's been sick and blowing his nose and coughing a lot, and he probably has the flu, but guess what? He's refusing to go to an urgent care. He first called me on my phone to ask where the eye drops are, and yet again, being groggy from just being woken up, I just told him where I thought they were. I told him I'm very sleepy and I can't think straight, and when I said that, he straight up hung up on me. Then 10 minutes later, he barged into the room and made me look at his eyes to see if he had pink eye. I then said, yes, they look pink and watery. And he then stormed out and I guess just went back to bed. As I lay there awake, I realized that his eyes might be pink because of all the strain from nose blowing and coughing. So I texted him this and he said thank you in a kind of roundabout way sort of answer. And also, on top of all of this, I've also been sick and had a hard time getting back to sleep from coughing. I finally fell back asleep at some point. And then I woke up to text saying how sick he is and that he can't call out of work because in the past, he's been told that he has to go to work because we can't afford him to miss a day's pay. An argument that ensued, mostly because I'm tired of his combative demeanor whenever he doesn't feel well, and I won't go into more detail, but it ended with me apologizing for things that I've said to him and assuring him that yes, he could stay home from work today. I know that he reacts from stress that he has trouble handling, but am I overreacting by asking him not to wake me up for non-emergencies? I haven't had this conversation yet because of his mental state with being sick. This is unacceptable behavior, but does he get a pass due to stress? And do I just maybe need to let it go? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the original poster is right. You can't just wake someone up for like non-emergencies that, guess what, you easily could look up online. Like, holy crap, okay, the TV remote isn't like syncing up with whatever's going on. Or maybe you're sitting there thinking, oh crap, do I have pink eye? Literally a simple Google search could figure all of that out. I don't know why this guy's waking his wife up like that. Because unless like a tornado's dropping down on your house, or the house is on fire, or someone's in danger, then I really just don't think it's justified to wake anybody up from a dead sleep. Seriously, there's there's no reason to do that. It's more annoying than anything, and it's just going to cause tension. So no, if you do have this conversation with your husband, I think you would be completely justified, because the way he's acting is really obnoxious, and I would be miserable dealing with that on a daily basis. My girlfriend, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is putting extreme pressure on me to marry her as soon as possible, putting me in a situation that is incredibly uncomfortable and very alarming, because she's never spoken to me like this ever in the context of our relationship for 3 years. But it's only after I graduated 2 weeks ago that she has suddenly said that we need to get married right away, and that if I don't, it's gonna feel like I'm abandoning her, which is definitely not the case. And right now, with all things considered, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things off, I've dated my current girlfriend for approximately 2.5 years. Now, I love her deeply, even though she is a little bit crazy sometimes. Anyways, we met my second year of college. I just graduated 2 weeks ago, and I moved back to my home city where I got a promising job offer about 2 hours away from my school. Meanwhile, my girlfriend still has about 2 semesters left. Ever since I returned home, my girlfriend has literally not had a single full conversation with me. Everything I try to talk to her about ends with her saying something like, "You need to marry me right now. Oh, you won't marry me. You're just abandoning me. You must marry me now." In fact, she started amping up the pressure for me to marry her for the month or two before I graduated. But this is reaching another level. She's saying that I have to marry her, and if I don't, she will go and marry someone else. In fact, her mother has friends who want to marry their sons over to her. Now, for context, she is a US citizen, and so am I. I'm pretty poor. I mean, I own nothing. Meanwhile, her family has a crap ton of assets. And you know what? She never spoke this way up until a couple of months ago. In fact, in the past, she even said that she doesn't care if we ever get married. I try to explain to her that I'm not ready at all. I just turned 23, I just graduated, I'm broke, and I don't know if I will still be working this job 1 year from now. I'm really not ready, and her insistence is kind of pushing me away. So I really don't know if this is salvageable. I don't want to throw away 3 great years of my life, but also I'm kind of at an impasse, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, this is a big red flag in my opinion, because why is she suddenly saying, "Oh, we need to get married right now"? Is she being promised like some great wealth or fortune or some kind of asset from her family if she does get married soon or something like that? Because from the sounds of it, this was never a part of your conversations ever in the past. So why is she now trying to be like, "We need to get married immediately, let's do this right now"? Like, I don't know about you, but anybody who's pressuring me to make a giant decision like this most likely has like some kind of ulterior motive. So I don't know, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be pumping the brakes. I would tell her, "Wait a second, what are we talking about? I'm not going to get married to you just because you're in a rush." Like, that's a big decision. That's a huge thing you have to think about and make sure you're ready to do. And based on what you're describing and like your living condition and what you've got set aside, it kind of sounds like it would be way too soon to make something like this happen. So hopefully you can peel back this onion and get more details on what's going on, because this is a little alarming. And if I was in this situation, I would be very freaked out and questioning just about everything in front of me. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my coworker put her name on a project that she barely touched after my manager basically said I did an outstanding job? Because right now my coworker is very pissed off that I'm not giving them any kind of credit for what I did. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake or if I'm justified in doing this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in a small office, and last month I was put in charge of a client presentation that ended up being a pretty big deal for our team. I did the research after hours, I built the slides, I wrote the talking points and rehearsed it twice. One coworker was technically assigned to the project too, but she was out sick for a week and then busy with other tasks. She glanced at the draft once and said, "Okay, it looks good." After the presentation went really well, my manager praised me in a team meeting and mentioned it might be used as a template going forward. Later that day, the coworker pulled me aside and said it would be fair if we both got credit since her name was originally on the task. I told her I was uncomfortable with that since she didn't really contribute. I tried to be calm, but she got defensive very fast. She said I was gatekeeping success and that teamwork means sharing wins. I reminded her that I had asked for her help earlier and she declined. She then rolled her eyes and said, "Wow, okay, guess I know what kind of person you are." Since then, things have been really awkward. She makes little comments like, "Must be nice to hog all the praise," and a couple of other people have asked me why I'm being so intense about it. Part of me feels bad because I don't want office drama, and I get that being left out really sucks, but another part of me feels like credit should match effort. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't expect my name on something I didn't help with. My manager hasn't said anything yet, but I worry this could blow up later. So am I being the jerk for standing my ground here, or should I have just shared the credit to keep things smooth? What should I do? Okay, this is giving me flashback to like college and high school where you have a group project that one person doesn't help out with, and then that person comes in and says, "Oh, I want to be on it as well." But it's like, dude, you did nothing to help out with this. You literally did nothing. I did all this work and suddenly you want to slap your name on the back of it? Like, no, I don't think so. So no, you're not the jerk. This person is an idiot. They're really just trying to take credit for your hard work and be like, "Oh, I helped out as well." When you're a team, it means you share the wins. You're gatekeeping success. And it's like, no, you're not gatekeeping anything. This is called doing your job and reaping the rewards. And in my opinion, this coworker doesn't deserve any of the rewards because she didn't do anything to help out. An entitled worker at a card store literally gave me the worst attitude I've ever seen in my entire life when I was simply trying to order cards in advance. So I decided to get some revenge by literally ruining this guy's entire day by making an order that he would have absolutely no time to complete before I would pick it up, derailing his entire day and forcing him to do something he easily could have done in advance. Here's what I did. Okay, so I just got home from this experience and I wanted to share it because it was kind of wild. As a hobby, I've taken to trading card games like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering to be more specific. I'm not collecting sealed products, but rather I'm usually buying bulk so that I can make multiple decks and play with my family. And this is important because I am often making huge bulk orders that consist of 50 cards or more. There are a few shops near me, and I am fortunate enough to be close to about 5 hobby shops that sell Pokemon and Magic singles. Now, I managed to drag my family into the Pokemon hobby roughly about a year ago. Since then, the process of making an order was to select from their online stock and then check out with a cart. And then when you check out, you're given 2 options. You can either pay in advance for your order or just pay in the store. Well, paying in advance, while it is sensible, has often led to cards being paid for that they just did not have in stock, as in it was mistakenly labeled as in stock but actually was not. And this would then result in a refund system that would take like 2 to 3 days to complete. The issue is that it would be super inconvenient when I would have to wait for like 3 days just to recoup the money. I personally experienced a transaction of a $10 card that needed to be refunded. So I spoke to one of the staff and they told me, well, when you have big orders, it's perfectly fine to call ahead of time, and we can pick the order when we have time. In fact, according to them, if you don't mistreat this process, it works out for everyone. Now that staff member is awesome, and so for about a year, that's exactly what I did. This process accomplishes 3 things for me. 1, I'm not paying for a product that couldn't be fulfilled. Number 2, I would reduce my time waiting because I called ahead of time by 4 or 5 hours. And number 3, the staff members would have plenty of time to grab the order. I never mistreated this process, and I always came through when I said I would come through. And trust me, this wouldn't be a malicious compliance story if not for the next part. About 2 months ago, me and my family took the dive into Magic the Gathering, and that's because Commander is a blast. This has caused me to start hoarding cards again and making decks for myself and for my family's usage. So I was back into the swing of things again, making 50 single card orders from this shop that I love very much. During my usual 4-hour in advance phone call, I was told, hey, you have to stop calling in these orders. It's store policy to only pull orders that have been paid for, so we won't be pulling your cards until they are paid for. And honestly, I found that weird. I was told otherwise, but I guess I'll have to ask them when I get there. So I get there to pick up and pay for my order, and I tried to explain that this process was something that a previous staff member told me was completely fine, and they even encouraged it. There were 2 staff members, and they both responded again with a very terse and repeated message of, oh, it's store policy. Well, the message was fine enough, but the tone and rudeness had me floored. They told me from now on, prepay for all of my orders, and only then can I come and pick them up. So this is where my malicious compliance begins. I mean, it was clear what they wanted me to do. Prepay and just show up. So a few weeks later, what I did was scroll through their inventory, and I started the process of making my deck look amazing. I proceeded to spend roughly 40 minutes scrolling through their online inventory and adding to my cart with various amounts of the most hollow foil basic land card that I could possibly find under $1. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, these basic lands are pretty cheap. We're talking like maybe 60 cents a piece. They also are categorized by sets and as individual printings. So each basic land has its own set and its own foil print version. So this means that they would need to hunt each land by set and by foil print. I had carded roughly 100 cards. We're talking 100 cards they would need to hunt through at least 40 different sets. They would also need to specifically find the foil only for the basic lands. But even better than that, I gave them an hour to pick the order. An hour, which is definitely not a lot of time, is more than enough to grab this order. Well, when I get there, it was one of the 2 guys that had reinforced the new method of ordering. Even better, he was swamped. He hadn't even even started my order. Now, I would have loved to have given him the 4 to 5 hour head start that I would normally give, but it was store policy that I stopped calling in advance and just order, pay, and then show up. So I wait. I ask if they started my order, and he quickly responded by saying, yes, I'm getting to it. And I think that even he knew that this would have been much easier if I had called 4 hours in advance like I normally would. This may be a strange thing to say, but I was very happy that there were 4 cards that were not available for the order. So I had paid for 4 cards that I would never see fulfilled. Now, do you remember the staff member that was awesome? Yeah, he showed up about 30 minutes into my wait, and he asked if I had been waiting for a long time. And when I told him my wait time, just because I had to wait, he had given me one of the tournament participant packs, and I actually pulled a $30 card, which honestly was pretty amazing. Well, the exchange was made, and I waited a total of 40 minutes. 4 cards were missing, and I plan on approaching their social media, or the shop owner itself, and ask for clarification from the establishment on what I should be doing in the future. That will be something I do in the near future, but for now, I feel very vindicated. The staff member had to frantically hunt for the cards, and even had to tell me that there were cards missing, which, by the way, are all the things that the previous system completely avoided. Dude, this is so funny to me because this guy was just being a massive jerk for no reason. Seriously, if he had just been like kind or at least somewhat polite in some kind of way, then this could have all been avoided like entirely. Because here's the thing, there's nothing worse than having crappy people working at a job where they literally are not following the easiest path. Yes, it's gonna make you do some work for like a few hours before we pick it up, but if it's a well-reputable customer who buys stuff from you guys all the time, at least have the common courtesy of doing your job instead of trying to scramble for 40 minutes with this awful attitude to boot. So honestly, I love the fact that you got revenge on these guys and showed them exactly why you were trying to follow the rules. Because in my opinion, these guys absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting for canceling the family vacation that I paid for after quite literally everybody complained about what I planned out? Because right now I'm still very hurt about this, even after they said that I ruined the trip. Here's what's going on. I'm a 36-year-old female, and I want to start off by saying that I saved for months to take my family, namely my husband, my 2 kids, my parents, and my brother and his wife, on a week-long trip to the mountains. I booked the cabin, I paid for most of the cost, and I even planned out all the activities. Well, the entire time, no one stopped complaining. My mom said the cabin was too rustic. My brother complained about there being no nightlife. My dad griped about the food options, and my husband was sulking because there wasn't good Wi-Fi. I spent the whole trip driving people around, cooking, cleaning, and trying to make everybody happy. On the 3rd day, after my sister-in-law made a snide remark about how I wasted money on the wrong place, I finally just snapped. I called a family meeting, I told everyone I was done, and then I canceled the rest of the planned activities. I said if they wanted entertainment, they could figure it out themselves. But apparently, now everyone says I ruined the trip and made it miserable. But I feel like they ruined it long before I pulled the plug. So seriously, did I overreact by canceling everything? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh man, if someone acted like that after I spent all this money and was like, okay, we're gonna plan this out, I'm gonna cover the cost and all that stuff, if they then started complaining and being like, wow, you wasted money on the wrong place, I'm pretty sure I would also snap. Like, I can't imagine anybody putting up with that. You mean to tell me you came all the way out here on my dime and you have the audacity to be like, oh yeah, this isn't good enough? Like, dude, there's no way. The original poster is 100% in the right. These people just don't realize that you did all the work here. They're just a passenger on the trip and they're trying to blame you for it not being fun. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? At least attempt to be gracious about the situation. Like, come on. So no, you did not overreact at all. These people suck. And the fact that they're trying to blame this on you all because you canceled it because of their complaining, like, that's also super toxic, and I know for a fact I would never do a vacation with them ever again. An entitled creepy server decides to hit on me instead of getting my order right while I was literally on a date trying to get dinner. So I decided to get some revenge by literally leaving him no tip, leaving him flabbergasted and me incredibly satisfied to get back at this guy. Here's what happened. Okay, so some odd years ago, I was on my first date with a guy my friends introduced to me. Just a getting to know you, are we gonna date or not type of deal at a 24-hour diner, which was really not a romantic dinner for 2. Now, the the waiter unfortunately spent more time hitting on me than anything else. At one point, he was perched on the edge of my booth with his arms across the back behind me, and it was honestly disgusting. To top it off, he even somehow managed to get my order wrong. Like, if you're gonna flirt incessantly with some random customer, at least pay attention to what they order. Anyways, this is where things get kinda spicy. Now, I've been told that it is more insulting to leave an awful tip than it is to leave no tip. It says literally, hey, I'm not a jerk who doesn't tip, I just don't think you're worth anything more than that. So I decided after everything this guy did to me that when I was gonna pay, I'm gonna leave a single $1 bill on the table. And you know what? That's exactly what I did. This dude came back with my card, again, perched on the edge of the booth, and actually said to me, wait, only $1? That's it? Don't I deserve more? But in a rare moment of boldness, the likes of which I have never attained again, I said to him, oh, my bad, I must have dropped that. And then I put the dollar right back in my purse. Now, this wasn't one of those situations where everybody clapped and applauded what I did, because it was literally midnight, and I'm pretty sure the only people there were me, my date, and the waiter, and presumably the cook. I don't remember what my date thought of my response, but we did date for most of the year, so it couldn't have been too off-putting to put this waiter in his place, because this guy absolutely deserved it. Oh man, that's so weird and creepy that that guy was literally hitting on you the entire time. Like, I don't know about you, but when I did like customer service and when I was a waiter myself, if I ever saw a man and a woman sitting together eating dinner, it would probably be pretty safe to bet that they're either a couple or they're like on a date or something. Like, maybe on the rare occasion it's like a brother-sister situation or some kind of like family member, but more times than not, it's someone who's like on a date with like a significant other or someone they're getting to know. So the last thing on my mind is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pick this chick up, watch me flirt with her. Like, dude, what is going on right now? You need to be professional and do your job. So I honestly love the way the original poster handled this. I love the fact that they didn't give anything in terms of a tip to this guy because he was being incredibly creepy. Like, honestly, there's no good excuse for that. His behavior was completely wrong, and in my opinion, he absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for asking my friend's wife who's staying with us to please take down the scented plugin she's put up all over the room that she's renting from us? Because literally, it's made my house smell incredibly bad, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong for telling her to stop. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife's friend, who we will call Melissa, is staying with us for a few weeks while she sorts out her life. We have a large home, and we are very happy to have house guests. She's leaving her husband after 25 years of marriage because she wants to move to Los Angeles and work at Disneyland. This sounds like the plot of a bad sitcom, but I'm afraid it's actually real. Both she and her husband are equally culpable for the failure of their marriage and really bring out the worst in one another. In fact, their relationship has been in a state for as long as I've known them. The problem is Melissa showed up with an arsenal of room scents and sprays and plugins. The smell has completely taken over the hallway, the family bathroom, the office, and even down 2 flights of stairs into the foyer drawing room and the living room itself. It's strong, it's nasty, and it's made of and smells like all the chemicals that we avoid. Now, as a sidebar, we've been cleansing ourselves of chemical nasties and have curated our home to smell clean and subtle. It's part of what makes it feel like home, but now it's just starting to smell like teen spirit, if you know what I mean. Melissa is genuinely lovely and in a vulnerable spot, and I don't want to make her feel unwelcome, but it's our house, and this is something that we've been intentional about. However, outside of our personal feelings about plugins, it feels really out there to rock up into someone else's house and then decide to bring your own plug-in scents to totally change the smell of the house. I mentioned how strong the smell was, assuming it was a room spray, and how it was overtaking every room. And she said to me, yeah, the plugins are pretty strong. And I was so shocked that I literally just asked her, can you please remove them? And I did this in a sensitive way. I said to her, hey, those room sprays are pretty strong. Would you mind keeping the door closed if you're using them? But when I said this, I honestly spiraled when I heard the word plugins, as in she has more than one. My wife told me that I was being a jerk for making her uncomfortable when she is going through a lot right now, and basically saying that I was over the line by asking her to stop. But I was incredulous that she thought it was okay to change the scent of our house. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I really just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, I don't think this is that big of a deal, and I don't think you're in the wrong in my opinion. Like, you have every right to be like, yeah, this is making the house smell weird and I don't like this. And sure, you probably could have like just told your wife and she could have talked to her, but I mean, why should you have to wait for that? This is obviously bothering everybody, and it's like, well, wait a second, I shouldn't have to go through my wife to do this. Now, in terms of an update, it looks like the message was taken loud and clear, and Melissa has taken down all the plugins. So I guess in the end, it did work out. But when it comes to the initial question, absolutely not. I don't think you're the jerk. Because I agree with the original poster. I think it's very intrusive to do something like that in someone else's home, and honestly, that just really was a bad call. My entitled boss went out of his mind by starting to micromanage me in a way that is really frustrating. So I decided to get back at him by following the letter of the law from our company handbook, doing things exactly as they're written, which he demanded from me, in such a way that literally derails the entire company and brings everything to a screeching halt. And I've honestly never felt better about teaching anybody a lesson in my life, because this guy never messed with me ever again after that. Here's how it all went down. So I work as a part-time office assistant for a mid-sized company. A few months ago, my manager, let's call him Dan for the sake of the story, started micromanaging me very hard. I'm talking clocking me for being 2 minutes late from lunch, criticizing my font choice and emails, and most annoyingly, calling me out in front of others for not following the company handbook to the letter of the law. One day after he publicly scolded me for using a blue pen instead of a black one, which yeah, he seriously complained about that, I decided to give him exactly what he wanted: complete and total compliance with the handbook. The next morning, I walked in at exactly 8:59 in the morning because, as you can probably guess, the handbook says the start time's at 9 o'clock, so there's no way I'm going to start even a second earlier. The handbook also says to use formal titles, so every email started with like this really super formal introduction, including for my coworkers that I've known for years. The handbook also says all internal documents must be signed and dated, so I signed and dated every single sticky note. The handbook says all meetings must be scheduled 24 hours in advance with agenda attached, so I declined his spontaneous quick chats until proper agendas were sent out. The handbook also says that lunch is 60 minutes, not 59 or anything more or less, meaning that I left my desk at 12 o'clock sharp and I didn't return until 1 o'clock on the dot. The handbook also says to copy to the human resources manager for all work disputes. So as a result, human resources started getting everything, even when Dan asked me to reprint a file. Within 3 days, everything slowed to a crawl. He had to answer to human resources twice for urgent emails I copied on them. In fact, projects backed up because he couldn't get me to bend even a little bit. On Friday, Dan called me into his office clearly frustrated. He said to me, "Look, can you just do your job without making everything so rigid?" But I responded to him by saying, "I'm just following the company handbook like you asked for." He then sat there silently for a good 10 seconds before he said to me, "All right, maybe we can be a little bit flexible moving forward." And ever since then, there's been no micromanagement. He barely looks my way and my work life has been blissfully quiet. Dude, I love this so much. I hate managers who micromanage you. That drives me up a wall, and as someone who dealt with that in my previous job, holy crap, it is the worst. If you've never dealt with it, then you're like so lucky in my opinion, because this really will like derail your entire career. It'll make you hate your life, your job. It'll make you second guess literally everything, because in my opinion, it's like this really like lukewarm version of gaslighting where they're basically trying to be like, yeah, you're not doing anything right. Even the small things are wrong. And it's like, dude, I don't know what you want from me. I'm doing the best I can and I'm literally doing what everyone else is doing. And if you micromanage the rest of my coworkers, I guarantee you would see like the same type of stuff. Like no one's perfect at their job. Like someone's gonna make even like minor supposed mistakes, even though like clocking in a minute early or late is not like a big mistake in my opinion. So yeah, I love the fact that you got back at this guy and you put him in his place by literally following the rules, because that sent a very clear message that the way he's acting is incredibly annoying. My entitled coworker keeps stealing pizza as well as several items from the office that he literally doesn't need, causing him to freak out and scream at me about this when I finally confront him, which honestly is one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I work in a weird sales job and I've been here going on like 33 years. The ages in the office goes from like 20 all the way up to 90. Also, when people work together for 40 years, everybody knows everything about each other. It really is gossip central, and I feel like I work in a geriatric high school sometimes. We order lunch for the office at least 2 times a month, and it's usually pizza or sandwiches. We have a few people with dietary restrictions, so we order kosher, gluten-free, and vegan. I mean, I'm making sure that everybody's covered. Since I never know how many people are going to be in the office, we always order extra, and there's always leftovers for people to take home. Since the specialty food is very expensive, we keep that at reception. Last week, I heard someone arguing with a receptionist, and he was literally trying to take the specialty food, which was definitely not ordered for him. When I tried to interject, he started screaming at me, telling me that there's more than enough specialty food and that there's no reason why he can't have it. I then calmly explained to him that this was ordered for the people who need the dietary restrictions and that there is more than enough pizza for him to take home. Now, this guy was literally screaming at a level I can't even describe, considering it's about crappy pizza. Well, like every other gossip item in my office, absolutely everyone wanted to talk about him taking pizza. Unfortunately, the whole office knows that this gentleman packs pizza in a travel cooler all before anyone has actually eaten. He wraps it in tinfoil and then takes it home. Like, this guy's been doing this for years. years. This is not a money issue, by the way. He's just super cheap despite the fact that he's quite well off. The next day, I tried to discuss with him in his office with the door closed that he couldn't talk like that to anybody and explained the specialty food was ordered for people who have dietary restrictions. But once again, he starts screaming at me that there's more than enough specialty pizza and that there's no reason why he can't have it. Now, I haven't lost my temper in the office in over 8 years. I do my best to be calm and even tone it down at times, but it just kind of came out of me like hot lava. Because right then and there, I started screaming back at this guy, saying that the entire office knows that he's stealing the pizza and that he has got to stop. He's more than welcome to take pizza home after everyone's eaten. Well, he was quite shocked that the whole office knows. And it really seems odd that he would be surprised considering how he whips out aluminum foil to wrap up the pizza every single time. The next morning, he asked to speak with me, and then he actually begins to cry to tell me he's sorry and that he doesn't know why he does it and that he will do better. Now, I honestly at this point felt awful. I really felt like 2 inches big. That's not who I am, and I really need to do better. And for the last week, I've been just a mess. I feel terrible that I yelled at him, and I just kept telling my boss that maybe I should apologize again. Well, my boss called me last night to tell me that he caught him stealing paper towels off the cleaning people's cart last night. Like he was literally loading paper towels in a big bag. So needless to say, I no longer feel bad, and my boss even gave me the day off. Because this entire situation is honestly making me think that this guy is out of his mind and there's nothing I can do to help him. Dude, that is some funny stuff right there. That guy was completely full of garbage. He came to the original poster and was like, "Sorry for yelling. I'll try to be better." And then he goes behind everyone's back and steals paper towels. And mind you, this guy's loaded apparently. He's doing quite well for himself as the original poster said, and like he's not really got any problems going on. So that's weird in and of itself. But also, in my opinion, and this really is how I feel, if someone's gonna yell at you and you've given them chances to be a normal human being and calm down, then I just would not feel bad about returning exactly the energy they're giving me. Like seriously, that kind of energy is so weird and I just cannot stand when people do that crap. Because think about it, you're just asking them not to eat pizza. You're not being mean and you're not being weird about it. You're just saying, hey, don't do this anymore. Please stop taking the pizza that other people need. And this guy just starts freaking out and screaming at you like, dude, what is going on right now? So personally, I'm kind of glad that you yelled at him because this guy absolutely needed to be shut down. My mom literally sent me through law school so that I could be her lawyer when she divorces my dad, putting me in a situation that honestly made my life fall apart. And now I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, right after I graduated from high school, I went to law school, and my mom and I were really excited. I did well on my first year, and I was even praised by professors and classmates, and everything seemed like it could go well. However, my second year was harder. My mind was so tired, and I started to do not so great. I went from excellent to good to average and then to a complete disaster. Every bad grade made me spiral and get depressed, and the more depressed I got, the worse I was doing at university. My mom was also not well, telling me that if I didn't do well, I would be a failure in life just like my dad. I then stopped telling her how I was doing or what my grades were, but she didn't stop there though. She managed to make a friend at my university who also was a math teacher just so she could look into the system and get my grades, and when she saw them, she just exploded on me. This started a long period of nearly daily screaming matches, and it was honestly just way too depressing. I then ended up repeating my second year, which was terrible. I was ashamed, I tried to be a ghost in the classroom, I stopped doing anything extra, and I was just so very depressed. But the situation with my mom got way worse, as I was clearly not doing well in any sense. I then ended up repeating that year again. So I was no longer allowed to sign up to university. And this is the start of my mom calling me a failure for years, and comparing me to literally anyone who was younger than me and already graduated from university. And now she's even comparing me to children doing robotics in their school with a government plan, just to point out that I failed in life. Now, when it comes to the title of this story, trust me, things get incredibly weird. My mom was cheated on by my dad when I was a child, and it was a very traumatic experience because my dad got very violent. My dad is still living with his affair partner, and she made sure to gold dig all she could with my dad. My dad even put her on law school in another state, and she became a lawyer. And it's important to know that my dad is a very well-known, very successful lawyer where we live. Well, my mom is raging at the fact that my dad put his affair partner in law school, and now just takes it out on me, screaming at me that if this idiot can do it, then I should be able to do it too. Now, besides all of this, my mom had never divorced my dad. They had been going back and forth for years, and I usually say that is because none of them would agree on a divorce term that wouldn't be something like, oh, just leaving the other person on the street. Also, my country's stupid laws have some fault, and at the time, you needed to prove that you were separated and had no contact for at least 2 years divorce and other crap like that. Well, 15 years passed and there was still no divorce. That is until last year when my dad used a relatively new law that allows one-sided divorce for lack of affection, and they finally got divorced mostly because my mom could not legally challenge it, but there still is this need to have a trial for the marital properties that they still haven't had yet. In the divorce lawsuits that we received, my dad's affair partner has now postured as his lawyer, and my mom is raging. And here's where she said to me, "Oh, if you had just finished law school, you could have been my lawyer." Now, it's important to note that this is not the first time my mom said this to me. In fact, she used to say it quite often when I was in university. But I knew for sure that I didn't want to go the civil path or the criminal path because I seriously didn't want to deal with other people's personal dramas or to deal with criminals. I also voiced it quite often. I was interested in constitutional, public law, and even copyright law, but unfortunately, copyright law wasn't a class in school, even though I was doing well in my public law classes. I told my mom that I would have never been a lawyer and that I wouldn't touch her case with a 39.5-foot pole, to which she proceeded to rant about how much of a traitor I am, as she says that I'm leaving her to deal with her divorce on her own. I was often told that this is between my parents and that I should not have a say on it. And this just enrages me because I was always in the middle of everything. I was weaponized by both of them for years. I was told daily by my mom that if I didn't do well in school, I would be a lowlife just like my dad. I was subjected to be constantly compared to my dad just to put me down. I was used as a messenger in between them because they refused to talk to each other. Even when my dad finally filed for divorce, the court called me because they couldn't reach my mom. My mom literally said for years that she wanted me to go to law school so that I could be her divorce lawyer. But now that I'm in the second half of my 20s, that's when I'm suddenly told that I should have nothing to do with their marital problems, when ever since I was a child, they made it my problem too. And now I'm honestly devastated by all of this, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Wow, your mom is crazy. Imagine going to your own kid and being like, "You need to go and be my divorce lawyer, so I'm gonna send you to law school so you can do exactly that." And on top of that, the dad's affair partner is also a lawyer, so like, this is clearly making your mom go crazy. Like, is that the only reason she put you in law school? Just so you could be her lawyer and like try to fix her life? Like, what's going on right now? That's so weird. And honestly, with that kind of pressure on your back, I don't blame you for doing bad. Like, seriously, she's trying to put you in a section that you don't want to be a part of, while also, once again, trying to weaponize you against your own father. Like, at that point, I would be bailing on all of this and be like, okay, I'm not putting up with this. There's no way I'm dealing with this. So yeah, this whole situation is so messy, and I'm honestly so sorry that you're dealing with it. And hopefully you find some kind of distance from your mom, because what she tried to set you up to do, in my opinion, is just insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for putting my hand over my sister-in-law's camera at my own birthday dinner after I literally told her multiple times to not film me? Because right now she's saying I humiliated her and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female and I had a small birthday dinner last weekend with my husband, my sister-in-law who we will call Lena, my mother-in-law, and 2 friends at a normal but nice place. Now Lena is an influencer and she films literally everything. The plates, the forks, even people breathing, like it's super obnoxious. 3 days before, I wrote in the family chat, "Please don't film me. You can film the food or the room, like that's fine, but just don't film my face." And she responded back by saying that she understood. Well, we sit down and within 10 minutes, her phone is up. I say quietly, "Please don't point it at me." And she goes, "Oh, you look great. It's just vibes." My husband then backs me and says she said no. Lena then rolls her eyes and lowers it for maybe 2 minutes. Then the cake comes out with a little sparkler and the staff singing. Lena then stands and points the camera right in my face like, "Oh, birthday girl reveal." And it's here that I put my hand over the lens and I said, "Stop." I didn't grab the phone or touch her. I just covered the camera for like a second. She then snaps at me and says that I ruined her shot and that this is her job. My mother-in-law then says, "Let it go for one night." But I said, "This is my night, actually." It then got awkward really fast. The server was right there. I felt embarrassed. My husband tried to change the subject, but Lena kept muttering about how she had to scrap everything. I even paid for my own dessert and we just left pretty quickly after that. The next morning, Lena texts that I humiliated her and made her look unprofessional in front of everyone. My mother-in-law says I should have moved seats if I didn't want to be in frame, but my husband says my boundary is fair, but maybe I made a scene by doing it during the song when eyes were already on me. She's posted me before without asking, and coworkers mentioned it to me. I've asked her to please blur or remove, and it just turns into drama, which is why I set the boundary in writing before dinner. So here's why I might be the jerk. It was a public place, and I did physically block her shot, and yeah, it was during the song. I could have stood up and turned away or something something like that, but also I don't want to be online against my will, especially on my own birthday. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. Okay, this is really crazy because your sister-in-law is absolutely toxic. Like seriously, this is not okay in my opinion. First of all, just because someone's an influencer doesn't mean they get to shove their camera in your face anytime they get the chance. Like, I don't care if it's your job or not, dude. Don't shove the camera in someone else's face and be like, oh, this is your problem. This is actually my job, so you have to deal with it. But it's like, no, you don't have to deal with that for a second. You establish a boundary and she walked right over it. Like, that's not fair for anybody. So no, you're not the jerk. What she did is incredibly toxic, and anybody defending her, in my opinion, is out of their mind. Would I be the jerk if I removed a friend and his girlfriend from our dining reservations that literally require him to confirm if he's going or not? Because right now I'm honestly super frustrated and I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I have a friend who keeps dodging my text messages when I try to confirm plans with them, but then they'll happily message the group chat that we're all in. Or if I call them, they say they'll call me back, but they never do. They are literally ignoring me when I'm just trying to make sure that they'll be there for our reservations that we're making. At this point, I'm getting frustrated and ready to just take them out of the reservation for the restaurants that we're going to, and this is all because of the cancellation fees. If they don't make it, I get charged $10 per person, and the restaurant's policy states that everyone must be there or we just won't get seated. So I could be charged upwards of like $60 because they decided not to communicate like an adult. I don't really want to take that risk on someone who's a grown adult and can't communicate, so honestly, am I being the jerk here? I know it's just money, but I think what's bugging me is the lack of communication and just ignoring me. This person is a good friend when we do hang out in person, but I can't seem to really rely on them because they just can't even communicate properly. And yet, when it comes to other people, they'll happily do so. I have tried to be patient, and I give them weeks to get back to me, but honestly, I have no luck. So, should I just take them off the reservations? Because I'm seriously not sure if they're even going to make it in the first place. Okay, dude, when it comes to friends like this, you have got to be like way more vocal. I would go to every single friend who is getting like messages from this person and be like, look, either this guy can respond back to me and confirm they're going, or I'm going to remove them from the list. And by the way, if they don't show up, then none of us are getting seated. Like, that might be the only way to get them involved and be like, okay, it's time to like step up and do what you need to do. Let's be adults here. Thank you very much. Because I am right there with you. This would drive me up a wall, dude. There's no way I would ever be okay with this. And honestly, it would probably piss me off way more than anything else. So yeah, you would not be the jerk if you did that, but in my opinion, I think it's time to escalate because this friend is being a massive jerk. My parents basically self-invited them on a holiday I was planning on going on, but now that it's been rescheduled, I'm considering not telling them again because I don't want them to ruin my plans. Because at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I honestly need to ask this question. How do people put up with their parents deciding to come along to a holiday that you paid for ages ago for yourself and your significant other or a special person in your life? Because seriously, I just don't know how people do it. For a bit of context, I won a holiday some time ago, and the only thing I had to pay for was extra accommodation for one other person as well as the fuel to get there. Absolutely everything else, namely the food, the spa, the 2 nights for one person, a trip out to a Dungeons & Dragons event, talking with an author and cosplay fun day, honestly was all sorted out. I mentioned it in passing to my parents whom I live with that I wanted to make sure my car was safe for the journey, which was going to be a 4-hour drive on some pretty harrowing roads in wet weather. Well, when I said that, they immediately booked the accommodation for themselves, and they actually packed their bags, saying that they were coming too. When I politely explained it was just for 2 people, they told me they deserved the holiday. They said that they were going and that I could afford it. Because this is where I found out they went through my bank accounts, withdrew money as repayment for the accommodation they'd booked for me, checked all my budgeting, and then just ripped it to shreds. They then kept going on and on about the trip we were all going to have. They have no interest whatsoever in Dungeons & Dragons, cosplay, history outside of their own special interest area, talking to the author, or any such thing. Like, I literally didn't want to take them with me. Because one particular parent has mobility issues, and one event I was going to was upstairs, they pushed me to cancel as they needed the holiday, and it would have been so unfair on them to not be able to go upstairs. Now, my +1 that I was going to take with me initially came down with COVID, and we all ended up getting sick. So I was given a booking for another time and a different but cooler event. Well, that other time is now today, and I have haven't told anybody yet, and honestly, I'm scared. What if they suspect something and demand that they come along as well? What if something happens to me on the road? They won't forgive me if I just take off without telling someone. I put boundaries in and I try to be honest with them, but they just walk all over my boundaries and do what they want instead. I mean, this is how they've always been with me. So I really need to know, how can people set firm but fair boundaries and actually be listened to by parents who never usually listen? Am I being selfish for wanting a break from them and not wanting them to come along? Also, am I selfish for not telling anyone, just taking time for myself to heal and refresh so that I can help them? I've told a friend about their behavior, but said friend just called me a jerk and that my parents really deserve the break. So, would you take off and go to the pre-booked holiday, or would that be a jerk move to do? Because right now, I'm not really sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, you've got some bigger problems than this vacation itself. Did you really just say that your parents went through your bank account and stole money from your account, and then actually had the audacity to justify it? Like, dude, you need to make a new account. There is no reason your parents should be on your bank account in the slightest. That should only have your name on it and maybe your significant other, but nobody else. And also, just to answer your question, no, you're not being selfish by wanting time for yourself. That's completely normal, dude. You have every right to have privacy and go do your own thing without anybody knowing, because clearly being honest with your parents is just gonna get in the way, and they're gonna try and obstruct what you're doing and make it about them, and try and steal more of your money in the process. Holy crap. This is some serious problems that I just would never want to put up with. Especially the part about them completely disrespecting your boundaries. At that point, I would start looking at options for moving out, because this is just weird, man. You have a right to privacy, especially with your bank account, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is to live in that kind of environment. So hopefully you can find some kind of solution, because this sounds really insane. The hotel that I was staying at literally stole all my things 3 weeks before my checkout date. And now I'm honestly at a loss, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I had a 4-week reservation with a hotel in Maryland while I was doing some job training. I had gone home on the first weekend I was there, since I was only 2 hours away. I left most of my things behind, and I took the clothing that I needed to wash. Well, when I got back to the hotel room, everything was gone. I had over $3,500 worth of belongings ripped away because the new housekeeper decided to throw everything out that I had left. I had a Gucci duffel bag, a Louis Vuitton belt, a Gucci belt, as well as several other things that were incredibly expensive. But here's the thing, their policy is to hold their belongings for 1 week and they're lost and found. The general manager said there was a mistake with my checkout date, which is total BS since the paper he referred to had my checkout date 3 weeks out. Now backtrack 2 years ago, and I had a house fire where I literally lost everything but the clothing on my back. I lost my animals, literally everything. So when I got back to my hotel room, it ignited the same feeling of loss. Their insurance company is only trying to pay me for $2,300 for my belongings and $200 to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So am I overreacting by thinking that I'm owed much more, and it being ridiculous that they want me to sign an NDA when they're the ones at complete fault and they admitted it? Should I get a lawyer or just sign it and get the $2,500 and move on? What should I do? Okay, personally, this is just a rule of thumb for me. I don't sign any paperwork without having a lawyer look over it first, because who knows what that thing says. But also, I can say what I would do because I don't want to give you legal advice, but if I was in your shoes, the second they try to be oh, here's a portion of what you're gonna get out of this, and also sign this paper saying you can't say anything. The second those options were presented to me, I'd be oh, okay, don't worry about that. I'm just gonna call the police and get a lawyer, because there is no way I would ever put up with that. Dude, this is crazy talk, because this is legitimately just insulting. Because I think you have it right. They probably did steal all of your crap, and that is insane in my opinion. Some jerk probably went in there and took all of your stuff and ran off with it, and now they're trying to be oh, sorry, I don't know what happened. This was a mistake. The checkout date was clearly wrong. And it's no, it's all in writing. You didn't get that wrong. You people just either destroyed my property or stole it, and honestly, both options are not fun. So no, you're not overreacting, and in my opinion, I think it's definitely time to find a lawyer, because what they're doing is incredibly sketchy. An entitled old woman demands that we give up our bus seat despite the fact that my sister was sitting there and she is literally 7 months pregnant. And even though this happened a while ago, this situation still really bothers me. Here's what happened. So I was on a bus with my sister, nephew, and daughter. My daughter was just past 2 years old and walking, with my nephew a year old in a stroller, and my sister nearly 7 months pregnant. On the buses in the United Kingdom, at least where I live, there are a couple of single seats that are meant for disabled people, or for basically those that are less able to stand. So my sister, the one who's 7 months pregnant, pregnant, sat in one of them with my daughter in her lap, and I stood with my nephew's stroller. An old woman came on, walked up to my sister and daughter, and told my sister to move. She said to her, "I need to sit down, move out of the way." Now, it's really important to note that this wasn't a full bus. Lots of the double seats were empty, and the one behind my sister was empty as well, but the woman wanted this one specifically. Now, my sister is pretty non-confrontational, so I said sorry, but no. She's heavily pregnant and has my young daughter. Now, the seat behind was free, but that wasn't good enough for this lady. She simply must have that one. More people were coming on and the seats behind got taken, so she said that my sister had to move now. And again, I said no. She then said that she couldn't stand long and that my sister had to move. By this point, the bus had set off and there were still seats, but they were further back. I told her to get lost, that she wasn't going to risk an unborn kid or my daughter because she wanted this specific seat. No one would care if she fell, but I would match any injury they got if she didn't get lost and find a free seat. She looked around and just like the classic British stereotype, no one was looking up. No one was looking up or even making eye contact. Like literally, no one was saying anything and it was hilarious. She mumbled something, probably how awful we were, and went to a free seat 2 rows on the other side, which was oh so far away. I mean, my God, she can't possibly sit there. But the best part about it is that she got off 2 stops later. And honestly, even though this happened a long time ago, this still annoys me even to this day. Yeah, that was a massive waste of time from that old lady because she literally could have just gone to like any other seat and had no problems. Like seriously, she just wanted to cause problems and be like, "No, you have to move right now." And it's like, dude, there's literally seats behind us. Go sit there. Like you can absolutely do that and be completely fine. Also, the sister of the story is literally 7 months pregnant. And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to give my seat up for a pregnant lady. Like what's going on right now? So yeah, good for you for not giving in to this stupid idiot because she was being incredibly toxic. Am I the jerk for body blocking my aunt who was literally trying to get unflattering photos of my grieving family members at my cousin's funeral? Because my aunt is constantly doing this, and this was the one day I simply didn't want this to happen. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a funeral for my cousin, and I'm not gonna lie, we only ever really talked like twice in my life, and probably fought over the gaming console as kids, but I know she was a sweet girl that everyone loved. She was diagnosed as a kid with cystic fibrosis and passed away last week. She was the first baby of our generation and no one expected her gone so soon. We all chipped in for her funeral to the point where the family had extra which they decided to donate to our country's nonprofit for cystic fibrosis. Now, one of my aunts, who I will call Donna for the sake of the story, has this obsession with making our relatives look bad. Honestly, there's no nicer way to put it as she's just kind of an awful person. She has cameras and during Christmas or Easter, she'd always go out of her way to take pictures of my mom's hair all messed up and sweaty from cooking for hours, or maybe my uncle passed out drunk. And while you could say this is just her snapping random pictures, she always posts them online and never takes them down, even when we gently ask or even outright just beg her, because everybody looks downright ugly in all of her photos, except for her and maybe her toddler. So during the funeral, we're all about to say our last goodbyes before she's buried. We were all honestly put together until the violin song from when the Titanic was sinking started playing, and everyone just starts crying. And even I'm past that point because it's just so awful that she hadn't even gotten to live a normal life because of all the procedures that she had done on her. My uncle had the decency to stop the live feed for our relatives abroad, but Donna just whips out her camera and I know what's coming already. I'm so pissed that she keeps doing this and nobody stops her. Donna starts walking around the room and I know her style already, literally shoving the camera into people's faces like she always does under the guise of documenting family memories and whatever. I decide to start walking around and greeting the relatives just in time for me to block them out from the photos. I could see her through my peripheral vision starting to get pissed off, but I kept it up until she gave up and started filming the flowers since she was already getting weird stares from the people who were catching on. Now here's the last bit where I might be the jerk. It's the moment when my cousin's dad and uncles were carrying the casket. Dad's head is ducked, and I can tell he's about to crumble under both the physical and emotional weight of all of it. Donna, on the other hand, is like some hunter adjusting her camera for the perfect kill. Just as she's about to take a picture, I cover him up with my body under the guise of helping him lift up the casket. And when I did this, Donna literally hisses at me, but I glare at her and I don't move because screw that. Well, this was a week ago, and Donna keeps making subtle jabs at me in the group chat for making the funeral about myself because it's tradition that the men carry the casket. So am I the jerk or was I overreacting in some kind of way? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. No, you did the right thing. This really is messed up. I can't believe that your aunt would seriously step up and be like, okay, now's the time to take photos. No, now's the time to grieve the loss of a family member. Like, dude, what's going on right now? If this aunt really is that toxic, I'm seriously surprised anybody invites her to anything in your family. So no, I don't think you did anything wrong. I think you did the right thing in my opinion, because your aunt is incredibly stupid. My psycho entitled mom is demanding that I let her move in with me, despite the fact that I know this would never work, as my mom is high-strung to an extent that is completely unacceptable, because my mom doesn't believe in boundaries or mental health, meaning that if she moved in, it would be my own personal nightmare. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I have an overbearing, emotionally unstable mother. She recently was in the process of selling her mobile home to move in with my brother because his partner is having their second child, and my mom is going to help with childcare, cleaning, cooking, etc. Well, she sold her place and was at my brother's house for 48 hours before getting into an argument with his partner about using a pitcher for coffee. My brother's partner asked her not to use that specific pitcher because it couldn't go in the microwave or something like that, and my mom basically told her that if she's going to live there and help her out, my brother's partner should nitpick everything, to which my brother's partner said, "This is my house." Now, for a bit of reference, my brother's partner has never really worked even before having one child, never paid a dime towards the house or the kid or anything they own. My mother's the one who paid to get them in the house and bought all their house stuff and their furniture and stuff like that. And in general, if I'm being completely honest, my brother's partner is a 35-year-old who sits on the computer playing Roblox all day while sticking her 3-year-old child in front of Cocomelon. So yeah, it's one of those situations. Anyways, my mom got very angry when she said it's her house, so she got her things and left to my other brother's place, which is a 2-bedroom trailer, but he has Asperger's. He's high functioning but difficult at times, and they've been butting heads over little things as well. Like he tells her to treat his place like an infant so she doesn't break anything, which really upsets her. So needless to say, she doesn't want to stay with him. And by the way, she got $5,000 for her mobile home, but she's horrible with money, so she's freaking out and keeps trying to guilt trip me into letting her live with my partner and I. And by the way, we live an hour away for many reasons, but mostly for my sanity. She keeps calling me saying that she can't believe she's being treated this way by us, even though I really have nothing to do with the brother's partner drama, but she's making it about wanting to live with me. And seriously, I'm trying to help her find a place to live. She wants it closer to me, so I said okay. I sent her like 30 affordable rentals, and I doubt she's even looked at them, because in all actuality, she probably just wants me to say that she can live with me for some reason, but I simply cannot do it. Like, my mother is healthy and capable of living alone. She doesn't need a caregiver or anything like that. Now, a couple of years ago when I lived out of state with my partner, she decided that she needed to come live with me. So I said, okay, I guess, and she stayed for like 2 weeks before being so angry about the way I was treating her that she moved back to our home state. And all I did was ask her to not come into my bedroom and wake me up in the morning because my partner and I often slept, without any clothes on, and it's a bit inappropriate and inconsiderate to him to just come in instead of waiting for me to wake up or like text me or something like that. You don't just barge in. Now, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I'm 24 years old and I cannot live with her. We do not get along when we live together. There are always issues and she always feels mistreated, even when I just want minor boundaries as an adult human. I can't take it. I can't talk to her because she thinks boundaries and mental health are ridiculous and that I'm just being cruel to her. She said she wanted to come up in my area for the weekend to look for places and that she would stay in a gross rundown hotel just for the time being, which again is just her attempt at guilt tripping me. So I said that she could spend just the weekend here to go look for places so that she doesn't have to waste money on a hotel, but I honestly have a bad feeling that she's going to come here and try to stay and then freak out on me when I repeat why it won't work, and I just want my own space to live in as an adult. Now, because of this, she says she doesn't know why she's even alive anymore and guilt trips me even more because I don't want her to live with me. Like, am I wrong for thinking that's a bit much? She makes me feel like I'm a horrible person for not being fine with whatever she wants. I really wish I could tell her to just take a break from my brother's partner, stay with my other brother for maybe a week, a couple days at my place as long as she doesn't get pissed off and melt down, and then go back to my brother's partner and set some kind of boundaries or expectations, especially about things like shared spaces and items, etc. Like an adult. But I just know that she's gonna act crazy if I suggest it. She can't have a conversation like that. It's either let her do whatever she wants, or else you are a horrible, cruel person for telling her not to, or even feeling any type of way, because she's done so much for you and all this other crap. I honestly just need help. The weekend hasn't even started yet, but I'm feeling so drained because I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, you know for a fact the second she gets up there, she's gonna be like, okay, I'm moving in, because it sounds like your mom is actually the problem here and no one else. Like, think about it. Nobody wants to be around her. She's always causing arguments. She's literally just causing so many problems in so many people's lives. Like, to me, there's just a bunch of red flags all over the place in this post. And it all stems back to your mom being overbearing and weird, exactly the way you described her. So in my opinion, if she's coming up to visit, you better be prepared to tell her, no, you cannot live here. Like, I wouldn't even go as far as being like, okay, you could stay here for a few days, because trust me, this is going to turn turn into like a few weeks and then a few months. She's gonna settle in there and then you're never gonna get rid of her, dude. So yeah, this is gonna be a weird situation no matter how you approach it because your mom does not sound stable. And this is not a situation I would ever want to be in. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My restaurant job laid me off even though I did nothing wrong according to my manager. And now I'm kind of stunned because I seriously just don't know what to make of this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I walked into work 3 days ago where my manager pulled me outside and said that they had let me go. Now I was completely blindsided and I asked if I did anything wrong. He said I did absolutely nothing wrong and that they're just making front of house changes and want to transition more into fine dining and that the owner didn't think that it was a good fit, which really confuses me because I literally worked at a fine dining place right before I got my job there, and they absolutely knew that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they hired me. At first, I thought it was because I was the last in, first out type of situation, because we have been getting pretty overstaffed, and technically I am the newest, but that doesn't make any sense because a new server they hired 2 weeks ago is staying over me. Apparently, I'm not the only server who got cut either, so that's kind of giving me some peace of mind as well. Now, I will admit there were some times I was frustrated with this job, all because of favoritism when it came to who got certain shifts and some of the shift numbers. It is a small place and we're all around the same age, so the manager is friends with a lot of the staff outside of work. I hung out with them sometimes, but I just wasn't one of those people who vibe with him, I guess. It definitely showed in the schedule sometimes because of how unequal the shift numbers were per week there, as well as who got bartending shifts, etc. But you know what? I sucked it up because it was good money. I will also admit that my schedule did become very limited to only over the weekends recently because of grad school starting. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it as well, but I honestly just don't know. So does anyone know if it was just the multiple factors I listed, or is it something that they're just not telling me? It just sucks because despite its flaws, this was still my favorite serving job I've ever had. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think you might be reading a little bit too much into this, because from the sounds of it, it does seem like they're just going into fine dining, and they had to trim some of the fat when it comes to like the employees. So if they're saying that you did nothing wrong, then in my opinion, I would just run with that. I would ask for a letter of recommendation just to have like visual written proof that yeah, I did a good job, and then I would move forward from there and be like, okay, I guess I'm looking for another job. But either way, I'm sorry you got laid off, and hopefully this works out for you in the future. I told someone that their girlfriend tried to cheat, and my girlfriend is now blaming me for their relationship ending. And honestly, at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake or what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so it was my girlfriend's birthday at the weekend, and she planned to go out for drinks, food, and then to a club. And the people in attendance were me, her, and a few of her friends. The night was going well, and we were all having a good time. We get to the club, and one of her friends starts dancing with a random guy. She has his hands around him and goes to kiss him, but some other friends drag her away. She tries the same thing with some other guy, but he rejects her as well. Well, I mentioned to my girlfriend that her friend's boyfriend has a right to know what she's doing, but my girlfriend said to drop it and that it wasn't our business. I then told my girlfriend that I was going to message him. I said I was going to let him know exactly what his girlfriend is doing, but she tells me to leave it. She said it's not even like I'm in a relationship with him. Well, I went ahead and I messaged him, and the next morning my girlfriend asked me if I did it, and I just told her yeah, I did. And she said he's broke up with her friend and they got into an argument about it when she got home. I pointed out it's her friend's fault and that it's the consequences of her own actions, but my girlfriend said it caused their relationship to end. So honestly, how would you handle this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, I can't believe your girlfriend is saying this. First of all, you're not crazy for calling this out and like reporting it to the boyfriend, because if I found out my girlfriend was doing that, I absolutely would want to know. Like, dude, this is unacceptable. Your girlfriend is 100% in the wrong. Like, does she really think this is something you should drop and be like, it's none of our business, let's look the other way? Because this is unacceptable. Like, dude, you can't possibly be okay with this. It also kind of makes me wonder, is the girlfriend doing that to the original poster? Like, I don't know about you, but that is really sketchy, and that is a massive red flag. Clearly, the girlfriend is okay with cheating happening if nobody says anything and we all just kind of look the other way. Like, that's not okay, man. Like, what's going on right now? She literally would rather hide her friend's cheating than actually do the right thing. And seriously, it is crazy that she's trying to blame you for that relationship falling apart, because this is not your fault. This is literally her friend's fault and no one else's. So no, you're not in the wrong, and you're definitely not the jerk, because this was the right thing to do regardless of what your girlfriend says. My best friend learned the hard way why you don't steal my snacks, as I set him up for failure in a hilarious fashion after he stole one too many Cheetos off of my desk. Here's how I did it. Okay, so my roommate has this terrible habit of just borrowing my stuff, and the borrowing usually happens with my food. I'll grab some snacks, leave them in my room, and by the time I'm craving them, they're just completely gone. Last week, I splurged on a giant bag of flaming hot Cheetos. They were my special treat after a rough week. I put them in my room with a note that literally said, "Jake, I will end you if you eat these." And naturally, they disappeared the next day. Now, I'm not into yelling or drama. I prefer petty revenge instead. So I came up with the most harmless but glorious prank I possibly could. You see, Jake has a desk job and hates getting up once he sits down. So the night before, while we were all hanging out, I snuck into his backpack and filled the entire bottom pocket with a bunch of loose Cheetos. I then crushed them into Cheeto dust too, so it was extra messy. The next morning, he grabs his laptop and notes like usual. But what he didn't realize is that he had a meeting with his boss later. He reaches in his bag at work and then bam, bright orange Cheeto apocalypse all over his important paperwork and laptop. I then got a furious text message of him saying, "Dude, what did you do to my bag?" And needless to say, he was mad for a day, but then admitted it was fair play. And so far, he's stopped stealing my snacks, and hopefully that stays that way because this is absolutely something I could do again in the future. Okay, I love this because not only is this hilarious, but also your friend literally said, okay, this is totally fair. Like, it's one thing to get petty revenge and not really have any kind of resolution, but it's the fact that the friend's like, okay, yeah, this is completely fair. Like, that part is hilarious in my opinion, and I love the way this ended. Am I the jerk for putting my foot down with my mother-in-law after she literally has been very invasive about her religion in my house? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I have been together for 12 years, and his family is extremely religious, and I don't have an issue with that. We are Catholic, but his parents' mom, to be exact, are on another level. She goes to church 4 times a week, carrying anointed oil with them, believe any priest on YouTube, push religion on me, etc. I don't need 56,000 pictures of Jesus or Mary in home to believe in my faith. Now, when we've taken vacations and they stay with our dogs at our house, every time she stays, she puts oil on my doors. She writes a holy math equation on the door with crayon and puts rock salt in every corner of the windows in the house. She says it's all holy, but I've asked her to please stop. I don't believe in all of that stuff, and I'm good with holy water and a Bible. But here's the thing, she comes in and does it behind our backs. And then when I tell my husband, he confronts her and says that she didn't do it. My husband and I have had arguments over this, and today I discovered oil in the shape of a cross in my daughter's room on the walls, all the way to the point where it was dripping on the baseboard and the carpets. So seriously, am I the jerk for wanting to put our dogs in a dog hotel while on vacation and to take her house key away because she literally can't be respectful of our wishes? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk. This sounds incredibly intrusive because I'm right there with you. Just because someone practices their faith a little bit different than you doesn't mean they get to push it on you in such an obnoxious way. Because dude, you're spreading oil all over my walls, man. You gotta stop doing that. Stop drawing on my doors with crayon and put the rock salt anywhere else but my house. Like, I don't care how religious you are. That's just intrusive and very disrespectful. So no, you're not the jerk, and I really think you're in the right in this situation. My mom is controlling literally every aspect of my life, and after dealing with this for so long, I'm now at my breaking point and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I'm a 17-year-old female and I am so done with my mother. She is very overbearing and just completely controlling. A great example of this is when she pulled me from school in 4th grade to homeschool me, thinking that she had the knowledge to homeschool me without any kind of curriculum. Well, needless to say, she was not. I had to teach myself everything through YouTube when she was sleeping because I wasn't allowed to have YouTube until 10 or 11 o'clock. I'm graduating early this year in November and she hates this. She knows when I turn 18, I am leaving, and she hates the idea of not having control over me anymore. She has tried to convince me to take a gap year by trying to bribe me with stuff like paying for my tattoos when I turn 18, promising she'll pay for my piercings even though she won't, and even saying that she'll let me dye my hair. But I honestly could not care about one of those things that she's offering. I've been dead set on leaving since I was 13 years old. I worked my butt off in school to graduate with a 3.8 GPA and a year early. She also won't let me get a job that I would be at longer than a few hours on the weekend, like it's some fun activity that she's rewarding me with. So I normally do my schoolwork at night so that she can't make me feel bad for being ahead. Well, she eventually caught on, and she's now making me put my phone and laptop in her room at night. I'm honestly going crazy, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Oh man, I feel so bad for the original poster. This is so obnoxious. You mean to tell me that your mom pulled you out of school so that she could homeschool you, and yet yet, here you are not being homeschooled. Like, this is so stupid. This is obnoxious. This is really dumb. And I just can't believe that she's doing that to you. It also doesn't help the fact that you're literally having to do all this on your own. You're going to YouTube to learn everything. You're having to stay up late just so she doesn't get in the way. And throughout all of this, she's seriously trying to discourage you from graduating early. So seriously, if no one's ever said it, your mom's an idiot and you are absolutely on the right track. And hopefully you're able to get out of there sooner than later. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that I don't want to pay for her dog that she literally manipulated us into taking in the first place? Because right now this whole scenario is crazy and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister-in-law and her husband got a puppy that is a restricted breed. They live somewhere where aggressive restricted breeds are not allowed, and they were aware of that when they purchased her, but I guess they were planning on hiding her and got her regardless of their location. Well, one night my husband and I get a phone call of her freaking out. She was frantically asking us to take her dog. She said, "Oh, we have to get her out tonight. I'll drive her to you." For reference, they live 8 hours away. And on top of that, they have a newborn baby. Now, we didn't want to take the dog because we have 4 cats. We are cat people. We like it calm and peaceful. And when we told her that, she's like, "Well, get rid of your cats." And it's like, are you kidding me? Excuse me? Well, fast forward and we crumble under the manipulative pressure and we take the dog in. We were planning on keeping her, but my sister-in-law wanted us to pay $1,500 for her. Apparently, they got her for $5,000. Now, I thought that was steep, seeing as we did her a favor, but we were keeping her, so it was whatever, I guess. Well, fast forward 1 week, and we realized that we are not cut out for this. We don't have a fenced-in yard, and my sister-in-law lied to us about her being potty trained. She vomited on my couch and crapped and went to the bathroom all over my house, and overall was just super destructive, which, like, obviously that's gonna happen. She is a puppy, but the point is my sister-in-law lied to us about her behavior. We then decided it would be best for the dog to rehome her, just to have a permanent home with a fenced-in yard and plenty of space for exercise. I searched for the right person for like 3 weeks, and eventually I found a perfect fit, and she's now with them. So we talked to my sister-in-law on the phone, and we told her we rehomed her for like $100, and she was like, "Are you kidding me?" And now she's getting incredibly angry. She said to us, "Okay, well, when am I getting paid?" Like, she doesn't even care about the dog. She just wants the money. So my husband and I were like, "Look, it doesn't make sense for us to pay you." And it's right here that she started freaking out, and she literally started swearing at me. She then called back and apologized, but only because my mother-in-law made her. She then proposed that we pay a lesser amount and that we can pay in monthly payments if we want to. And when she said this, I was honestly shocked, and I was really put on the spot. So with all things in mind, I crumbled, and I said, "I guess that's fine, but it's not fine. I don't think it makes any sense to pay her anything." So seriously, am I the jerk in any way, shape, or form with this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't think you're the jerk for rehoming the dog. Like, that does make sense, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. Like, you're not equipped to take care of this dog, and it would only be doing it a disservice. But I will say, you're out of your mind for caving into this lady over and over again. Like, seriously, think about it. Her lack of planning is always an emergency for you. She not only made you pay over $1,000 for that dog, and by the way, I can guarantee you that dog did not cost that much, but also now she's trying to be like, "You need to pay me in monthly payments. That's the only way to make this right." And you're meaning to tell me that you're agreeing to this? Like, dude, stand up for yourself. Don't sit there and take this crap, and most especially, don't pay her a single dime. So while I don't think you're the jerk for rehoming the dog, I do think you're out of your mind if you actually start paying her any money. Because in my opinion, you've already paid way too much and she does not deserve another cent. Am I the jerk for not knowing where the car is parked at the airport? Because my wife freaked out at me in a way that honestly has really started to bother me. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my wife and I have 3 kids and she wanted to travel for summer vacation. I'm not a fan of traveling, but I told her just pick the city that you like because I know how much she enjoys it. We decided to pack a week before, but that week I was busy at work covering for my manager and mentally overwhelmed with the potential job change. Every evening I came home late and I found her on her phone for hours, and yet still nothing was packed. So we spent the weekend packing. I finished my bag early and I kept asking her if she needed help, but she kept saying, "No, I just need to put the kids' clothes away." So just to help her out, I took care of the kids so that they wouldn't interrupt her. On Monday, I drove 3 hours dropping off her luggage for early check-in, and that evening, suddenly she started crying, and I just hugged her and I stayed with her until she calmed down. Well, on the flight day, we were late. I parked at the departure terminal, and she booked the parking ticket on her phone. At the airport, she mixed up the boarding gate, and I didn't get upset, I just quickly moved us to the correct gate. The flight itself had 3 connected seats, so I sat with the kids, including the 1-year-old, so that she could finally relax. During the trip, I handled most of the baby care, namely the diapers, the milk, the showers, etc., and I did this this again just to give her a break with the older kids. In multiple occasions, I would recommend that we go a specific path since I'm the one pushing the stroller, and she just says, no, let's go the other way, which then means I have to push through a hard path with a stroller, or I've got to carry it since there's no ramp. And every time she did that, I got no apology whatsoever. After the trip, we landed at the arrivals terminal. I assumed that we would stop and ask for directions to the car, since arrival and departure terminals are often very different. I was pushing the luggage trolley with a bag in the other hand, and she saw the exit, ran out like a headless chicken and said, here's the parking. Well, we checked 3 different parking lots, and she was running ahead while I struggled to keep up with the luggage. After the 3rd wrong parking lot, she finally snapped and looked at me and said, do something, find the car. I then asked an airport employee for help, and they guided us to the car, and it literally just took 5 minutes. I asked for the parking ticket to exit, but she simply couldn't find it. And then after 10 minutes of searching, we had to get help from security just to leave the lot. It was around 9:00 p.m. with an hour drive home, and she stayed mad and silent the entire ride home. The next day, I sat down with her and I asked what I did wrong, and she said I should have thought to find the car beforehand, but I pointed out that I had suggested that we ask after the first wrong lot, but she refused by saying, well, there's no time, we need to act. She then said she was stressed from the trip and her work the next day, which then just led to her breakdown. But I was under stress too, and I still stayed calm throughout the entire thing. My thought was that if I didn't find the car parking beforehand, then you didn't find the parking ticket beforehand either. But this is like the double standard life that we live in. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Yeah, you described it best, dude. You live in a double standard. It seems like you're supposed to be responsible for everything, and despite that, your wife is still allowed to like freak out and blame you for like things not going right. And that's really weird and just completely not fair. So no, you're not the jerk here. You literally did everything you could to help her out, and instead she was just being super ungrateful and panicking for no reason. Because if she simply asked for help from someone in the airport, this literally would have been solved so much faster. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.